We are live. Hello, everybody. I'm Chris.
And I'm Brian.
And we are the Biblical History Skeptics. And today, let's just have everyone introduce themselves. Hello, everybody. I'm Chris. Oops. And I have a... we are the Biblical History Skeptics. And today, let's just have everyone introduce themselves. Hello, everybody. I'm... there.
And we're going to do it twice over just to make sure.
Yep. Okay, everyone introduce yourselves because I've already fucked everything up.
No, don't feel bad.
All right, who's starting?
Sure. Theomaki, since you spoke up first.
All right, what's up? I'm V from Theomaki. I'm drinking Coors Light because this is all I could afford at the moment. And there's I got Cheeto Paws, and yeah, I'm ready.
And let's have the next person next to him wearing the shades. How are you today, sir?
Not bad. Yourself?
I am stoked. Go ahead and introduce yourself and your channel, too. Your channels.
I'm HistoryNet. That's the name of my channel also. And I got no liquor with me at the moment, but I'll be having a few root beers if that counts for anything.
I was going to say, if you had a choice of alcohol, what would it be?
Kahlua. Kahlua and milk.
Okay.
Andale.
And we have the Yamaka avatar. Not sure what that is. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Brock. Channel's the Esoteric Jellyfish, and I am drinking Zevia ginger ale.
Nice. And I have a friend of mine, Ben. Are you there, Ben? All the way to the left. All right.
I think you went to the store, so...
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So
Ben is my partner in crime.
So
and what do you drink? And what are you drinking, Chris?
I am drinking vodka with some Canada Dry. I think it's what is it? What flavor? It is cranberry ginger ale with raspberry vodka.
Oh, nice.
And Brian, what are you drinking?
Oh, God. You know what? I could not. I was so stoked for the show. I'm pumping Kool-Aid. Can't wait. I could not pick a flavor. I have Angry Orchard, Green Apple. I've got Jack Daniel's, Southern Peach. I've got Blue Moon, Mango. And then I've got this. It's a wine of some kind. Gallo Family, Sweet Grapefruit Rosé. Oh, wow. I don't know what to start on. I think I'm going to start on the Jack.
You see, Brian decided to be a connoisseur tonight.
I went into Piggly Wiggly. I could not. There was just so many to choose from. And there's 8 other flavors I'm looking at.
I forgot I forgot everyone south of Michigan has Piggly Wigglies.
In East Coast, they're called Food Lions. That's their Piggly Wiggly.
But yeah, it's not so much him being a connoisseur so much as it's hard to be sober in the face of so much historical revisionism.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah, we will be drinking a lot tonight. In addition, I also have animal crackers. Because I never got out of Sunday school. I am always in Sunday school. Animal crackers are the best.
Oh, man. I swear. They always got them on sale, slightly stale, and yes.
That's right, man. They are best when they're a little old. They're stale. At least one kid has been grubbing around in them in the store. Those are the best ones.
And if you have 10 kids or less in a classroom, they'll last 2.5 months, guaranteed.
Oh, yeah.
Ask me how I know.
Okay.
And this peach is not bad, I have to say.
All right, so what are we doing today?
Today we are making enemies with half
Yes.
the entire atheist community.
I want to say half, but a fringe minority. Loud.
No, it's pretty large in the atheist community, unfortunately.
That's less atheists to take seriously then.
About a quarter, at least. That's right.
At least a quarter. Anyways, it's good. So, just a preemptive message to everyone before you read Richard Carrier's blog where he loses his mind. Yes, we are all liars, hacks, cranks. We love performing ass crankery.
Hey, don't kink shame me, damn it.
Delusionally insane.
Yeah, well, incompetent, ignorant, insane.
And that's what he says
our writing is crap.
I was going to say, and that's what he says about qualified scholars.
Closet Christians.
So, you know,
and if you plan on bringing your downvotes and drive-by comments, go ahead. You'll just prove our point.
Yeah.
Bring us your downvotes.
Okay. So
Mr.
with that, we are going to be going over let me get the video just going right here. So, can everyone see it?
Yeah.
I'll be monitoring the chat if I can.
Yeah, got it.
Okie doke. So, we're just going to go straight for it. This is Why I Think Jesus Didn't Exist. A historian explains the evidence that changed his mind. And let me just skip ahead to Andy Dick in a wig is speaking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's also got a PhD. You gotta have that memorized.
Oh yes,
he's got a PhD from an Ivy
He has
League.
it. Actually, So I was going to do this real quick. Whoops. If I actually look up what I was. So the unemployed bloggers. This is his blog. Let me introduce him for you. Richard Carrier is the author of many books and numerous articles online and in print. His avid readers span the world from Hong Kong to Poland. With a PhD in ancient history from Columbia University, he specializes in modern philosophy of naturalism, humanism, and feminism, and the origins of Christianity, and the intellectual history of Greece and Rome. With particular expertise in ancient philosophy, science, and technology, he is also a noted defender of scientific and moral realism, Bayesian reasoning, and historical methods.
Did you say feminism? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. He was one of the biggest SJWs that led Atheism Plus.
Yes.
Oh God.
So that is our who we are talking about tonight. The unemployed blogger. I mean, the world-renowned scholar, quote unquote. So let us begin.
Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Richard Carrier.
All right.
Curb your enthusiasm.
All right, let's see. Oh, good volume, it sounds like. Excellent. So let's begin. Why do I think Jesus didn't exist? So far, the only books I have that explicitly or come anywhere near to discussing this are these two, Not the Impossible Faith and Proving History, which I have a few copies of today, if you're interested in learning more, and I'll reference them several times in this talk. But the key book, which I finished, so it's just now going through the peer review and production process to...
Okay, first thing, peer review. Everyone drink!
Salud.
Assalamu alaikum, lachaim.
You gotta drink every time he brings up how he's been peer reviewed, because he has to say it at least every time he talks.
So let's pause here and discuss Sheffield Phoenix Press.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, we're going that far back.
Okay, so Sheffield Phoenix Press was founded by Philip Davies. If no one knows who that was, he was a scholar of Old Testament. He was, I'm not going to beat around the bush. He was kind of loopy. Basically, he published and liked anything that was contrarian. My professor actually knew him. Dude was a little bit out there. As a result, when Sheffield Phoenix Press became a thing, it greatly gained notoriety for the lack of quality things that it published. For example, Carrier's book is not the first academic press published mythicist book of the 21st century. It's actually Thomas L. Brody's book on it. I think I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it was also published by Sheffield Phoenix Press. It is infamous in scholarly communities. No one really gives it that much respect. The peer review process. Carrier has already actually talked about the peer review process. It looks like he actually chose many of his peer reviewers. So that's a red flag immediately. That's not how peer review is done. It's supposed to be a blind process. And so, yeah, there's that issue.
And how did he come? Well, okay.
Well, Chris,
there's more that I
make a big deal out of it.
When we get to Romulus, there's more I'm going to say about the peer review process. Like when we start talking about his citations, there's definitely a lot to say on the peer review.
Oh yeah, I read it. We'll get there. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Chris,
and if people don't know what book we're going to end up be talking about and what he's talking about, it is this one, On the Historicity of Jesus.
That badly written piece of revisionist history that I wasted hours of my life on.
I call it the gargantuan tome of mythicist agenda. That's the nicest way I can put it.
Genre
is good for the soul.
The genre, historical fantasy.
Just FYI, when I was actually very curious about mythicism, I considered getting a hardcover edition of that because you know how much I love hardcover. Oh my goodness, am I glad I didn't, because I had a friend with a hardcover edition, went through that, and it was just, why? When I got to what he said about Rome, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I know, and he's a Roman historian. Wait, let me correct myself. A world popular Roman historian. So do we just want to continue and get past this?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
A published book, hopefully before the end of this year, will be On the Historicity of Jesus Christ, which will basically take what I'm just going to summarize very briefly and just touch the tip of the iceberg on today. In that book, I detail every single aspect of this and discuss many of the objections and so on that come up. Well, to begin the story, I have to explain why I thought Jesus existed. For a long time, I thought this was a crackpot theory that Jesus didn't exist. The whole Jesus myth idea was nonsense, and I thought I could easily refute it. And often it was because people would send me garbage arguments for it that I could easily refute. So I thought it was just another pyramidiate kind of scheme or something. One of the reasons that I thought that Jesus surely existed is that the argument from silence is much too weak. There are many ancient people for whom we have no contemporary attestation. So the mere fact that we have a paucity of sources for Jesus in and of itself doesn't mean he didn't exist. Another is the idea that consensus should be trusted without a really good reason. If the consensus of scholarship is that Jesus existed, we should pretty much probably side with that unless we have a really good reason not to. And the arguments that I was receiving at the time didn't give me a good enough reason to reject the consensus. Another point that I made was that there was no peer-reviewed case that had been made for it through academic presses or through academic journals. It was mostly amateurs using bad methods, and it was easy to demonstrate that. And that made it look unbelievable to me. And another was my assumption that there was no plausible explanation for why Christianity began or why a myth of historicity arose. Usually the Jesus myth theories were built out of implausible conspiracy theories. They often had elaborate truther type tales as to how Christianity originated, which I found intrinsically improbable. Until I read this book, people convinced me that I should really look at this. This was the best case, they said, for the Jesus myth theory that does the most serious scholarship and is the least amateur in its presentation. I found out that that was true. I wrote a review of this online that you can find by Googling. I found that it had mistakes. It wasn't completely up to snuff in terms of an academic dissertation, but it was very close. And in fact, Earl Doherty in the Jesus Puzzle does a pretty good job of making a sound case. I wasn't.
Okay, I just want to say, no, it doesn't make a good case. The book, I have paperweights that make better cases for mythicism than that book.
So do we drink or not?
No, not yet. He hasn't said anything too stupid yet.
All right.
Should we just skip ahead to where he actually says something interesting?
No, let's take our time. Come on.
Remember, we got to address all his points.
Yeah, otherwise we'll be accused.
Oh yeah. Otherwise we will be
You
liars,
saw that-
hacks.
You saw that message I sent you about like the fact that Rome was a city, right?
It's not a city. I don't know what you're talking about.
Have
Rome
city,
is a
have
myth. Rome's a myth. Brack, back me up on this.
I'm already through my,
What's that,
my
bro?
first beer.
It was invented by the Jews to give them an enemy nation.
It was so
This peer review book I has makes a good case for it.
it was like
It's all fake news.
the ancient Jews were like Tolkien, man. I swear they made a whole language called Latin and shit.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Part of the conspiracy, man.
Yeah, and it was all part of this genius guy named Philo.
Yeah. When we get to the 23-minute mark, I will address our good friend Philo.
This is Brock, our Orthodox Jew. Who can confirm or deny what he's saying.
Okay, let's go back to this.
Convinced at this time, but I realized that there was a respectable case that could be made and it was worth investigating further. So what ultimately changed my mind was that the argument from silence is still strong when you look at the epistles, not just the epistles of Paul, but a few others that I'll talk about in this talk, that do look very strange if there was a historical Jesus, and I'll talk about that a little bit today. Another is that I discovered, and especially this most recently, that the consensus is based on fallacious methods and sometimes factually incorrect beliefs. I found that a lot of historians who were defending historicity, once you start asking them why they believe Jesus existed, the evidence and arguments that come from them are very terrible, and in some cases as terrible as the arguments coming from mythicists. And also a peer-reviewed case I realized could be made if we got rid of all the errors that proponents of this theory, the Jesus myth theory, were making. If we got rid of all the stuff they were doing wrong, what we had left over was still a case worth looking into.
He said peer review. Drink!
Salud.
Brack is going to be the only sober person by the end of this night.
That's why I'm eating.
Brock, I don't believe in God, but God bless you.
I'm eating too. I'm eating animal crackers, therefore I'm superior.
I'm eating Cheetos paws, motherfucker. They look like paws, not the whole animal.
Yeah, but these look like animals that were on Noah's Ark.
Plus, it's in a pretty stylish container.
Yeah,
I've never
exactly.
seen such an epic container before.
Mine looks like a bear.
I was going to say, yeah, were there two male lions going up into the ark?
Of course. They had to have some gay lions in there.
You know the coloring book picture I'm talking about.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
he's gonna take this to believe that we believe the ark happened.
Of course. Who doesn't believe that the Ark was actually a thing? Okay, let's go before this devolves even further.
And finally, I realized, as Earl Doherty's book especially taught me, that there are plausible explanations for why Christianity began and why a myth of historicity arose. So we can actually explain Christianity with a Jesus myth theory without any conspiracy theory nonsense. Now,
What?
I heard someone said bullshit. Who was it?
Oh, that was HistoryNet, definitely.
Bullshit.
I thoroughly demonstrate in the book Proving History, which I mentioned before. That was kind of part of the main point of that book, is when I was asked to do this research and a bunch of fans got together to fund a grant for me to do this book on the historicity of Jesus Christ, the first task for any research project like this is to ask, well, how do we answer a question like this? How do we decide? How do we determine whether Jesus existed or not? What methodology should we use? So I immediately went to look at the methodologies that were being used already and found that they're not only multiply fallacious and fallaciously applied, but that every single scholar who had published an analysis of the methods argued the same thing. That in fact, there was unanimous agreement of all the scholars who had done dedicated published analyses of these methods had all concluded that the methods were fallacious and being fallaciously applied. So I realized that the method was out. So I had to come up with a new method. My book talks about what that method is and also analyzes the old methods that are currently being used and why they're fallacious, citing all the scholars and scholarship who agree with me on that point.
Yeah, notice he says all the scholars who agree with him on that point. Terry, if anyone actually takes the time to read through and follow his citations, you're going to notice something, and that's that his selection bias is pretty large.
Did we drink?
Yep.
One thing that I find...
Is that keyword for conflict of interest? Just
something I find very...
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was going to say, one thing I've always found very interesting. I don't want to make any accusations and such, so I'll just kind of disconnect it to talk about a real life story with myself. So before I got injured, I used to bodybuild. And whenever you would read any type of studies talking about protein and the protein synthesis and other supplements and how well they work or how well they don't work, whenever the study was funded by an actual protein company or an actual supplement company, we always knew to be very cautious and suspicious of it, because if the funding is coming from someone who has a certain interest, there is a danger that the researchers might fudge the numbers because of who's funding it. So, so I find it interesting that the whole mythicist thing, was funded, by mythicists for him to do. So I'm not saying that he did anything shady in that regards. I just find it interesting and naturally approach his work with skepticism because of that connection. But I will say, at least he was honest and open to admit that was the case. He didn't try to conceal it or hide it or anything. So, I definitely, give him props, for being open and honest about that.
Yeah. So here, I'm just going to skip ahead here.
Oh, hold on.
So
We got a commenter saying that I hear no actual refutation with facts or sources. All I hear, well, that's stupid.
Well, that's because we haven't actually gotten to him making any claims yet. So
let's go ahead and fast forward to it, bro.
Yeah, all we have so far is just him rambling. So of course we get to make fun of him. He's just rambling. That's the point. Okay. 3 horses in the race, don't care because we already know what they are. Where does he start making claims here?
We didn't put a mark on that?
Oh, here we go. Trends in Hellenistic religion.
Oh, no.
Or here, we'll start.
Mainstream scholarship views historicity in a more nuanced way. Their view is that Jesus was an ordinary nobody, kind of like not a particularly famous Galilean preacher, whom no one noticed but a few fanatical followers, and that the Gospels, they grant, are mostly fiction, but there are kernels of truth in them that we can extract. But they do that using the methods that are invalid, which I talk about in Proving History. Now, the best theory of non-historicity, the best Jesus myth theory there is, reduces to this, that Jesus was the name of a celestial being subordinate to God, with whom some people hallucinated conversations, or claim to have hallucinated conversations, and that the gospel, the written gospels that we have, began as a mythic allegory about this celestial Jesus set on earth, as most myths then were. That wasn't unusual to do that. And so that's the basic theory. So these are the...
Notice he doesn't give any citations for that claim.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about all these about a lot of these claims he's going to make is that he claims that that a lot of these things are supposed to be allegories and stuff, but they're not. I don't know what he means when he says that these are supposed to be allegories. Like when Plutarch records the famous life of Romulus, it's not an allegory when he recounts that people were actually believing that Romulus was taken up into heaven in the style of Elijah. To say that I don't know what he's trying to, why he's arguing this kind of a point, because the reality is that that's not how they were writing, really. I don't know. Brett, what were they writing like this, like in Jewish apocalyptic literature? Like, was it just meant to be allegory?
Within Jewish tradition, there are 4 major ways of reading the text that can coexist with each other. So it's not like you have to pick one method or another. So you have a plain reading, you have a metaphorical or allegorical reading, you have a comparative reading, and you have a mystical reading. So within the time period and also afterwards, Jews, we address those texts in those 4 different manners.
Right. So there was probably definitely people that were reading these texts literally and reading them allegorically, and then there were also those that were reading them all 4 ways to get the most out of them.
Exactly.
Okay, so basically what Carrier says at best only holds up for some people. Maybe.
And is he going to get to the whole, or let's just let him,
some passages would be a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
Let's let him get to the whole, the epistles only talk about celestial Jesus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Theories that we're testing against each other to see which one explains the evidence best or not. Now, forget all the other mythicist theories. There's all these kinds of conspiracy theories and different kinds from different authors. Just throw them right out. They're less even if they're credible in any sense at all, they're less defensible than this basic theory that I've talked about here. Now, I'm going to start with an analogy so you understand where I'm going with this. And if you think about the origin of Islam, according to Islamic tradition, Muhammad, quote-unquote, hallucinated conversations with the angel Gabriel, and the Quran records the spoken teachings of Gabriel. That's the basic principle of it. Mormonism, Joseph Smith, quote-unquote, hallucinated conversations with the angel Moroni and seeing words on magical plates, and the Book of Mormon records what the latter two said. I put hallucinates in quotes because hallucinate would be what we would say if they were telling the truth, but they may have been lying. So it's a possibility. But either way, they're pretending to have visions and not actually meeting what we would call a normal earthly historical person. They're having visions of celestial beings.
This is one thing that we're also going to see is the language he uses. We'll note this later, and we'll have to drink a lot.
I only got one of these, buddy.
Oh, is there something when
I might have to skip the beer and go straight to the wine.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, this is going to be for example, his language, like they hallucinated, quote unquote, or something like that. It's like a vision or an appearance does not actually equal a hallucination.
Yeah, so one thing I had to say is that's a problem. Like, for classicists, I was watching Tim Whitmarsh give a lecture about ancient atheism, and he said the problem with using language that we have now to describe the past is we tend to look at history through an atrophied, primitive view instead of looking at things by their own terms back then. What these people were having were religious experiences. You could call it hallucinations if you want to talk about it empirically, but like when we're talking about how these people thought of their religious experiences, there's other terminology to use. It's very obvious that he's doing this to be condescending in a sense, no?
Yeah. Well, and I don't even think that they qualify as a hallucination, even psychologically.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty huge analysis to make.
Yeah.
And here's another thing I noticed. He says that he outright claims that the Gospels are fiction, even if you don't believe the events in the Gospels happen, that's inaccurate to the genre of the texts, which are Greco-Roman biographies.
Right. Okay. Here we go.
And communicating their teaching that way. So the analogy holds here that Jesus was also originally a celestial being, just like Gabriel and Moroni, and taught his followers originally in the same way. Whether they were lying about it or whether they were really genuinely having hallucinations is a separate question we don't need to answer. And then he was what we call euhemerized. This is a basic principle of stories being created that placed him on Earth interacting with historical figures. The euhemerization is named after a Greek author by the name of Euhemerus before Christian times, who actually historicized Zeus, for example, and Uranus, these gods. He claimed that they were originally kings in this lost, distant kingdom.
Hey guys, there's a loud sound in the background.
I think I did it. We're good. Go ahead, continue.
kingdom, and that they were deified in later ages. And so this became a trend, and it was named after him, to euhemerize celestial deities, take them, put them in, pick a historical period, put them in there, write histories about them that fit them into the historical period, as if they were ordinary men that walked the earth as demigods and were later deified. But in reality, they started as celestial beings. They didn't have earthly myths in the beginning. And so there are a lot of gods that this happened to.
You know, the funny thing about, though, a lot of these euhemerized beings is that, I mean, for example, euhemerization does not actually mean to just place them on Earth. Euhemerization is when you are basically making a myth real, attempting to historicize myth more accurate. It's not just placing it on Earth. For example, Hercules, a good number of his myths are on Earth. As part of the his entire his birth, his raising, it's set on Earth.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, the he said Zeus, yeah.
I didn't catch that, but
like, you know, Zeus, yeah, he has stories set on Earth, but you got to remember that, you know, it's like the story of Zeus and Hermes looking for a place to stay, and everybody's being an asshole to him. Does that count in his book? And like, does he? You're the one who looked this stuff up. What do his sources say about euhemerized gods like Zeus and Uranus?
Oh, I haven't even really delved into all his euhemerization stuff that much, but that is something that I have yet to really dive into particularly. I've mostly been focusing on his dying and rising god motif and everything.
Yeah.
But I think but this is also a tactic that Carrier uses, is improperly or muddying down terminology to fit his agenda better. Okay,
and usually this stuff happened the other way around, where mortals were deified as gods. Alexander, the Caesars, all them.
Yeah.
The pharaohs.
Apollonius.
Yep.
Well, that's not euhemerization, though. That's deification.
Yeah, this point is we have a case of that happening the other way around.
Yeah, we have a lot of cases of that happening the other way around.
Yeah, so
quite a few.
Who's to say that it didn't happen the other way around for this particular case?
Yeah.
But Bayesian analysis points to this because...
Yes. We have arbitrary points with the Caesars. We got how many Caesars called D-Weave. We have Apollonius, point for historicity.
If anyone has watched Steve's stream going over Carrier, you'll know what basically what Carrier does with Bayes is what most people who are experts in the field have characterized as abusive of the theorem.
Slightly.
So
arbitrary point scoring.
Yeah. Tim Hendricks corrected him on it. Luke Barnes did also.
Numerous people have.
Yeah.
R. Joseph Hoffman also has talked about it. It's bunk the way he uses it. He uses it basically the exact same way that Blake Juinta and William Lane Craig and Richard Swinburne do. Just weigh your priors until there's until you get whatever answer you want.
Do we move on?
Yep, let's go.
And then, of course, according to the Christian theory, or the theory of Doherty, for example, then people started believing or selling those earthly stories as if they were true. And that's the development that Christianity led to, and that's the Christianity that we're talking about today, is the result of the people believing that these myths were actually true. So why is that credible? Let's survey the evidence on that. The first thing to look at are the trends in Hellenistic religion of the time. These are trends that were already evident across the Roman Empire and including throughout the Middle East just before Christianity arose. The best reference on this is Petra Pekkanen, interpreting early Hellenistic religion. And she documents that there were 4 big trends in religion in the centuries leading up to Christianity, and that Christianity conforms to all 4. She doesn't specifically talk about Christianity. This is my analysis, but nevertheless, she thoroughly demonstrates the trends and their existence and their widespread effect in the ancient world. Now, those 4 trends are, first, syncretism. Syncretism is the combining of a foreign cult deity with Hellenistic elements. So you take ideas from one culture and ideas from another culture, or ideas from one religion or ideas from another, and merge them. The result, of course, is going to be something that's different from both of the original products, because it's going to have pieces from one and pieces from the other, and it's going to leave pieces behind from either as well. But this is very common. This is one of the trends that we're seeing, is we're seeing it. Some local national cult is being combined with Greek ideas, the Greek mystery religion model, to create a new religion that's a merger, a combination, or hybrid of both. A monotheistic trend is another one. A lot of times you hear that the Christians and the Jews were the only monotheists against polytheists. That's actually not the case. The trend in polytheism at the time, there's this big trend of transforming polytheism into monotheism via a mid-stage called henotheism. Now, henotheism is the view that there's one supreme God and all the other gods are subordinate deities in one fashion or another. Usually they're created by the master deity. Now, if you realize Judaism is actually henotheistic, because you have God and he created all these angels and there are all these demons and there's Satan and so on, and these things all have the exact same powers as pagan gods. So in reality, the Jews were just engaging in an Orwellian semantic game. They were calling them angels and demons, but in reality, a pagan would look at that system and go, that's just my system. That's the gods that have the same belief system. You have one supreme deity and all these subordinate deities, some are good and some are bad. It's kind of the same thing.
You want to talk about that, Brack?
How far do you want me to go into it?
Oh, go as far as you want.
So one of the things that is different where how people in the modern age view the concept of God and man to that during the time period that we're talking about is during the ancient period, it was more of a spectrum as opposed to a polar opposite dichotomy. So you had within the ancient world different levels of deity and different levels of humanity. And very frequently the categories would cross over with each other, where you have, certain deities that lower themselves or were created as, lower status, or you have humans who would be deified and raised up to a heavenly status. And you did have this within Judaism. Enoch, Elijah, were all viewed to be celestial beings. Now, and the angels, of course, were viewed as celestial beings as well. The judges that are mentioned in Exodus 21 and 22, the word in the Hebrew is Elohim. So the judges on earth who were functioning in the Beit Din and the Sanhedrin were also called gods as well. So you had, a long spectrum of it. But what made Judaism different than the rest of the religions is within Judaism, only, Hashem, the God of Israel was worthy of worship.
So, yep, there we go. Just want to make sure you managed to get that in there.
But this trend was growing at the time, and there are many different, the mystery cults in particular were growing in this direction of the idea of a supreme deity with the subordinate deities, and Christianity fits into that myth, that section as well. And individualism. This is very important. This was one of the biggest trends of Hellenistic religion that's importantly overlooked. Oftentimes when you hear criticism of the Jesus myth theory, people who are criticizing it aren't aware of this fact. And that's the fact that what began as agricultural salvation cults. There are a lot of these, for example, I'll talk about a little bit later, dying and rising God cults. These cults began as agricultural metaphors. The God dies and rises with the seasons and with the agricultural stuff, and that the religion was involved in ensuring the crops would grow. It was basically targeted towards the community and towards fertility of the whole region, for example. These cults were specifically being transformed during the Hellenistic period into personal salvation cults. The exact same gods, the exact same stories, the exact same metaphors were now being mapped onto personal salvation. So instead of agricultural fertility every year and a community event, it would be an individual gaining his own personal resurrection or salvation through the metaphor of the God's death and resurrection.
Theo.
Where do we? Okay, so you just want me to just run down some of the examples?
Sure. Preferably not the examples he'll bring up. So he's going to bring up his primary 5.
Okay, so which one should I talk about?
I don't know. Just do what you want.
All right, let's just discuss three of them. Osiris, Zalmoxis, and Romulus. They all end with S. Anyways. Osiris is one of the examples. There's this common misconception that Osiris was a dying and rising deity. Osiris stayed dead. According to the myth, you can actually read it in Plutarch's work. Plutarch wrote an essay about it, about Osiris and Isis. And Osiris, what happened after he died was his body was entombed and his spirit came back in the underworld to rule it. That's not coming back in the bodily way that Jesus did. The other example is Zalmoxis, who our friend here, Chris, has written about. Zalmoxis, we have very few sources for him, but the sources we have pretty much say that he...
There's no source that even said he died.
Yeah, we don't have a source that says he died. It says that essentially he believed in immortality. He went into a cave. People thought he died. He came out a while later. Turns out he was alive. So that's not dying. He went into a cave to prove that he could live forever. And then, of course, there's Romulus, who's the example that pisses me off. Because just a little tangent, when I first heard about mythicism and heard about Romulus, all these claims being said, and I was like, I didn't hear about that. So I went to the sources, and yeah, no, Romulus has nothing in common with the character of Jesus in any sense. You know, he is... Where do I begin? He wasn't born of a virgin, first of all. He was born from...
He was born out of, in the most common version, he was born out of rape.
Yeah, rape. And it's disgusting, but that was the ancient world, okay? Rape was... Yeah. But that's not a virgin birth. Definitely not. And then, of course, there's the other versions that say that she was impregnated by Mars. Again, not a virgin birth. God fucked you. And then, of course, there's the fact that his end, his death, so to speak. We have two versions of that. The first one is he was butchered, and his bits were hidden by the... was chopped up into a bunch of pieces, and the bits were hidden away by the Senate, who claimed that he had been deified. And of course, the other is, of course, that a cloud came down and took up a bit of paradise. And according to our sources, he did appear later, but it wasn't like a bodily reappearance. He just shed his mortal form and became deified, and then came back. You know, the way that Romans and Greeks thought that apparitions came back all the time, like. What was the example you gave? Protesilaus?
Protesilaus. Yeah, he does it. Protesilaus is actually one that Carrier tries to give as an example of a dying and rising figure in his book, Not the Impossible Faith. He basically quotes Celsus's list of figures that are mentioned along with Zalmoxis.
And also, this might be up ahead, but speaking of Celsus, Celsus wasn't a mythicist. He was convinced of that rumor that he was the bastard child of a Roman named Pantera.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd think that if there was...
But no. Pantera was also a celestial being.
Oh, God damn it. Tell me when we're going to get to Paul, because I have...
Then there's the so-called passion plays and gospels around.
Oh, the passion play. And the gospels of Mithras, too. We're missing those. I wonder
where are they? I don't know.
Or just supposed to take his word for it, I guess.
But yeah, when we get to his position about Paul and what he thought of Jesus, let me know.
Oh, we'll get there. Actually, I think what's coming up soon is Philo, right?
Oh boy.
I can't wait.
And another one is cosmopolitanism. This is the fourth trend. This is the idea that all races, cultures, classes could be merged together and be treated as equals, that there was no difference between race and nation and so on. We could all be one brotherhood, and that we were all sharing contact with or parts of God in ourselves. And they were developing fictive kinship groups where all members would call each other brothers and sisters and so on. And one of the big changes was from early polytheism, you would have public cults. You didn't have to believe, you didn't necessarily have to participate. There were ceremonies conducted publicly, maybe public holidays and so forth. It wasn't something that you chose whether to join or believe in. One of the big trends of the mystery religions is to change that trend so that now you join a religion rather than being born into it. You actually pick a religion, you engage in an initiation ceremony, and voluntarily become a part of that cult. And it becomes something that you believe in and something that you rely upon individually. So those are the 4 trends. And you can see how Christianity is kind of looking like it fits right into this system of trends. Now, the trend in action, we see here, this is a list of several of the mystery religions we know predated Christianity. And you can see the trend here. The Eleusinian and Dionysian mysteries, the Bacchic mysteries, were also very popular, date hundreds of years before Christianity. They combined Hellenistic ideas, this Hellenistic mystery cult concept, with Phoenician, Western Syrian concepts. So they're basically this different cult in the Middle East was being merged with Greek ideas to create this new kind of religion. The mysteries of Attis and Cybele, that combined Hellenistic elements with Phrygian, which is Northern Turkish at the time, cult ideas. So this Northern Turkish, this Phrygian religion was being merged with this Greek mystery religion model to create a new hybrid, a new religion that's unlike both in various respects. Then we have mysteries of Jupiter Dolicanus, which combined Hellenistic with Anatolian, which is Western Turkish religion. We have the mysteries of Mithras, which brought us Mithraism, that combines Hellenistic elements with Persian religious ideas and Persian cult ideas. Then we have the mysteries of Isis and Osiris, which combined this Hellenistic mystery religion model with Egyptian religion and created a new religion like that. When we look at Christianity, what we're seeing is the exact same trend, a local national cult, the Jewish cult, the Palestinian cult, being combined with Hellenistic elements, this mystery model, to make a new religion, just like all of these others. You just as you have Osiris cult as an Egyptian mystery religion, just as Mithras cult is a Persian mystery religion, Christianity is a Jewish version of a mystery religion. And there were this trend of dying and rising gods that I mentioned before, that were originally agricultural gods but became gods of individual salvation. There are at least 3 of them. There's actually a few more.
So real quick, his choice in water bottles is good. Aquafina, top notch.
I was about to say, name me one Egyptologist that agrees with him.
Yeah, and also another thing. What the fuck is he talking about cosmopolitanism?
You'd have to read that book from the 1990s that he cites. Apparently, there's nothing else that's in the 21st century that helps him.
Even ancient fucking Christians didn't think that way, okay? Ancient Christians thought of themselves as a third race, which was a term that they used to distinguish themselves from Jews and Hellenes. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to cosmopolitanism. These ancient religions were not that cosmopolitan.
Yes, they were. He says so.
Oh yeah, and there's the other figure besides Osiris and them. There's also Ishtar. Ishtar
quasi fits the example, actually. Though she actually does bodily resurrect.
And also when it comes to his examples, again, we have Osiris right there, but I just went through the fact that he's not a dying and rising god. He stayed dead.
Yeah, but Ishtar did resurrect, but her motives for going through that journey in the underworld and all that had literally nothing to do with it. And she died because she was greedy and stupid, not because she was dying for anybody's sins or salvation.
Yeah. It's completely different. But let's get to the examples here.
And it was on a meat hook and not a crucifixion.
Yeah.
You're saying they're not the same?
Yes, I am.
I think Odin comes closer, but that's kind of a far
Oh, you
stretch.
start giving them ideas.
Okay, here we go.
That we can confirm in evidence predate Christianity. There are a few where the evidence postdates Christianity, but there are several and plenty that we can confirm predate Christianity because we have evidence definitely predating Christianity of them. One is Romulus, which was the Roman state god.
Here we go.
The three I mentioned.
Right there.
Damn it.
Beautiful.
Can we rewind 5 seconds into back and replay that?
Oh,
Drink.
sure.
No, drink. Everybody drink.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. Yep.
Salute.
Okay.
One more time, just in case someone missed it.
Predating Christianity of them. One is Romulus, which was the Roman state god. His death and resurrection was actually celebrated in annual passion plays.
Bingo.
The passion plays that he's quoting or talking about, they're only let's see, number 2. He gets them out of Plutarch's Romulus 29. They're not actually passion plays. What they did was they reenacted what happened at his quote-unquote death when he was taken up. Everyone went berserk in the streets, ran around, acted like they were frightened, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't actually even like a play. That basically was just mass hysteria. Like, and any of you can actually go read about this. He gives Romulus 29 2 for Plutarch. It's the life of Romulus. Yeah. It simply no. They are not. They were not passion plays. A passion play was like a reenactment of the suffering of the figure.
That's what the word passion means.
Yes. They did not do that. They just acted like they were chickens with their heads cut off.
So it was basically like sort of similar to the weeping of Tammuz in Babylon, basically.
Similar, except that was actually more structured.
It was a festival. It was a goddamn fest, no?
Yeah. It was not a passion play. It was just a big festival that the whole community participated in.
Yeah, like Saturnalia when they went hog wild drinking.
Right, or the Corpus Christi. Like, you can look it up. This is the quotation that he does, or the reference he gives in his book, citation number 2. For anyone, I don't know if anyone will be able to see it out there. Anyways, it's Romulus 29:2 from Plutarch. So, yeah, no. Osiris, as we've already talked about, does not resurrect at all. The only thing that you can really come close to is the rejuvenation associated with him with the crops, except he doesn't resurrect through that. He's not at all. And then there's Zalmoxis. I've written a whole paper on Zalmoxis.
Let's go point by point. Let him speak.
You want me to go through Zalmoxis here?
No. I was saying the video.
Oh.
Part of Roman imperial cult at the time, so it would be very well known. Osiris was the Egyptian god, and that was one of the most popular cults, Isis and Osiris cult, throughout the Roman Empire. And those baptized into his death and resurrection would be saved in the afterlife. It was one of the fundamental teachings of Osiris cult. And then there was Zalmoxis cult, for example, which is a Thracian god. His death and resurrection also assured followers of an eternal life. So you can see this.
What the fuck?
So the book that he makes his Zalmoxis argument in is right here, Not the Impossible Faith. There is the one and only source that he really deals with for his main argument is dealing with Herodotus. Herodotus does not say that he died and rose from the dead. What Carrier does is he argues that it was a polemic, and that what they actually thought was that he died and rose from the dead. There's no basis for this. We have no inscriptions from the Thracians that say this. We have no books from the Thracians on this. We have no quotations from Thracians on this. In short, we don't know what the Thracians believe because the only people that were talking about it were getting it secondhand, like Herodotus.
And from what we can tell, he just went into a cave and said, you know, if you believe me, you'll live forever. And then he came out. That's not dying. That's living in a cave.
That's what Herodotus basically says. He went and spent 3 years in a cave, and on the 4th year, he came out of the cave, and then everyone knew that what he promised was true. There's also another thing associated with that they believe that people who joined him were given the promise of eternal life. Their belief, though, was not that they would have bodily eternal life like the Christians. that they didn't believe that they'd get a physical resurrection. They believed in a Greek, very Hellenistic sense of it, that their immortal essence, in a way, their soul essence, would continue on. So basically, this body is a shell. The true us never dies, in their view. It just goes on to Zalmoxis.
Yeah.
That's seen in the first account that Herodotus gives. He actually gives two different accounts of Herodotus. We also have other sources that mention Zalmoxis. We also have Strabo, and we have Diogenes and a few others. None of them give any implication at all that he died and rose from the dead. The one other source that Carrier mentions earlier in the book as possible evidence for this is that he references Celsus, or Celsus, however you want to pronounce it. With Celsus, here's the funny thing is that when you look at the people that Carrier just says, and actually I can just find it real quick here. Where is it? Okay. He says, Celsus, though himself a doubter, attested to a widespread belief in resurrected men among pagans, rattling off a list of those whom pagans believed rose again. Zalmoxis in Scythia, the slave of Pythagoras, and Pythagoras himself in Italy, and Rhamphisinides in Egypt, whom they say played dice with Demeter in Hades, and returned to the upper world with a golden napkin which he received from her as a gift. And also Orpheus among the Odrysians, and Protesilaus in Thessaly, and Hercules in Cape Tenerius and Theseus. None of them, literally none of them, are dying and rising figures. Orpheus, everyone on the bloody earth should know, does not die and rise from the dead. He walks into the underworld and just comes back. Pythagoras never dies and comes back from the dead in any account at all whatsoever. He is mentioned as going down into the underworld for 200 years and then coming back.
And then Heracles, he dies and then he gets turned into a god.
Yeah. And only in if I remember correctly, the Heracles Melkart tradition too. In the Greek tradition, he just goes into the underworld and returns, and then completes his tasks. He also mentions Rhamphisinides. Rhamphisinides, funnily enough, is also talked about in Herodotus. And in Herodotus, we learned that he went down, and Herodotus says, alive into the underworld, and then returned. He never died. None of these figures are dying and rising. But you know what's really funny about all of them, though? Is that they go down into the underworld and return briefly. Or return for the rest of their lives, or whatever.
You know what?
Protesilaus, real quick. Protesilaus is the only one you could ever try and make a case for in this entire list that was a dying and rising figure. But you know what's really funny about that is that it never says he came back from the dead. It says that he died, he went to Hades, and then he appeared to his lover for 2 hours, and then he had to return to Hades because he was dead. It was an apparition. So
you know what else is funny is that the zeitgeist propaganda about Jesus being copied off of Horus, Krishna, Dionysus.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, but turns out that Carrier gives them shit. Well, he says, no, don't listen to these figures, listen to me. And my figures I compare.
He said the same thing about Caesar's Messiah. He said what he doesn't like about Caesar's Messiah. He said this in an interview with Seth Andrews. What he doesn't like about the whole Caesar's Messiah thing is people will look at that and think mythicism is bunk, and I have an actual argument.
Yeah,
it's
not
bunk,
much.
It's bunk, period, no matter who you listen to.
Yeah, he doesn't really have an argument for it. In his argument, the reality is that if you look at all the figures that Zalmoxis is compared to, and even in the other literature, if you look at the other figures he's compared to, they are always figures that have gone into the underworld and returned. descending and ascending deities or people, not people that are dying and rising. There's actually and then there's also the fact that the cave entrance is in Hellenistic tradition strongly associated with like the entrance to Hades or the entrance to the afterlife, like the cave of Nyx, Tanarian, stuff like that. You actually can make a far stronger case that Zalmoxis went into the underworld and returned than he died and returned. There's no evidence anywhere for that, but there's actually a far more implicit evidence that he was, from all the different references that compare him to Kronos, who didn't die and rise. He was cast into Tartarus, and then in some versions, he is allowed back and he becomes the god over Elysium.
Also,
yeah.
And there's another thing on Rome. He says that Romulus was the state god, even though all the gods shared Rome, basically. The Etruscan gods who were synchronized with the Greek god.
And the god that they cared about the most was Jupiter Optimus Maximus.
Yeah.
The god of war.
And
Mars Invictus.
Yeah. About the Isis and Osiris cults. Osiris was not that big, neither were the other Egyptian gods, except for Isis. She was ragingly popular in Rome at that time.
Right. Okay, let's continue, because otherwise this can go off forever. Needless to say, it's all bunk. We've already talked about Romulus. Also, fun. Richard Carrier has actually been reading my paper on Romulus, so he's probably going to have a blog post about it before long. I will probably be called a hack, a liar, and all sorts of fun things.
You'll be called a liar no less than a dozen times.
This is going to be so fun.
Oh, I know.
The suspense.
An uneducated hack.
Okay, here we go.
Christianity is just another version of this same trend. And I talk about these and others in Not the Impossible Faith. So this is the book if you want to get up to speed on that. I'll talk about it more, of course, in my next book on the historicity of Jesus Christ. But if you can't wait for that, this is the book that you want to look for. All my books are also available on Kindle, of course. But I want to clarify here, because when I talk about this dying and rising God trend, this idea that Christianity has evolved from this prior model, I don't want to make you think that I'm endorsing all of the parallels that have been claimed. There are a lot of parallels that you'll see on the internet and books, often by amateurs, claiming that all the attributes of Jesus come from other gods. Like, for example, his birth date on December 25th and various things like that. No, that's not necessarily the case. A lot of those attributes, like, for example, Jesus being born on December 25th, were added to him much later anyway, so they have nothing to do with the origin of Christianity. And there are many attributes, for example, his having 12 disciples, that probably do not come from any prior disciples, any prior God who had disciples and all of that. So there are a lot of these claims that are dubious. So you have to make sure that you can tell the difference between the dubious claims and the claims that we actually can prove predate Christianity. And it's also important, you often hear Mithras listed as one of the dying and rising gods. This is an example of one of the bad claims that goes around among mythicists. Mithras, we have no evidence that Mithras was a dying and rising god. What we can tell, and what you see here, is this is an inscription that's basically a comic book version of the Gospel of Mithras. No one preserved the text. We know the texts existed, but the Christian...
Okay, let's drink. Comic book version of Mithras.
Based on the Gospels that we don't have.
And I officially actually need more alcohol because I have run out of stuff. Where's my...
Define gospel.
Gospel comes from the Old English Gospel, which is the Old English rendition of the Greek Evangelion, which means good news.
Was there any good news about Mithras?
We don't know, because it was a mystery cult, and they're called mystery cults for a reason. We don't know a lot about them.
No.
Yet he's so sure that there are these gospels.
Yeah. Where?
Okay.
Where is there even a mention from another source that says, these Mithraists have gospels? You know, I'm not going to make it.
It says right here in the comic book version of Mithras.
Christians can preserve it. So all we have is the picture Bible version, and we have to kind of guess what the scenes mean. And the best that we can tell is that he undergoes some sort of great difficult struggle, some great suffering involved in battling this giant bull that somehow gives him the ability to ascend to heaven and gain power over death. And we're not sure exactly what happened, but it had something to do with this great struggle. But it wasn't him himself dying, as far as we can tell. But what all these gods do have in common, even the ones that don't, like Mithras, who don't explicitly die and rise again, these are the things that they do all have in common. And there are probably like at least half a dozen up to a dozen of these gods that predate Christianity. They're all savior gods, and they're all called the Son of God. There are a few occasions of daughters of God who are also these savior deities. They all undergo a passion, and it was the exact same Greek word was used for their suffering. Whatever story of their suffering that gave them power over death, it's called a passion in the exact same Greek word in all of these cults, as far as we know. They all obtain victory over death, which they share with their followers. That was one of the central teachings of these gods, Mithras included. And they all have...
how do you know that about Mithras? Can you please give me the Gospel of Mithras, please?
Bruh!
We don't know anything about Mithras. All we know is about what a bunch of Christians were saying hundreds of years after the bloody fact.
Also, he assumed the Roman Mithras had any connection with the Persian Mithra.
Yeah,
Right.
and like, yeah.
Which we know, which there was probably a little bit of connection, but not in the cults at all.
Yeah, what we could tell is that it was definitely like the fashion and the way he appears and the name is definitely Persian, but however they practice their religion, we can't account for Roman Mithras with terms used by Zoroastrian Mithra.
Exactly.
Also, do you remember Jesus struggling with a bull anywhere?
I totally do.
And also like this struggle. How do we know that the Mithraists, called this a passion? How is this the passion of Mithras?
Struggling with bulls was a common thing in the ancient world.
It was.
Yeah. Bulls were kind of, holy animals
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
What does this say? Lego?
Oh, Lego, yeah.
What's that mean?
It's it was the first bit to Lego Menos, which Carrier says sparks a digression and therefore means interpolation.
Oh,
Okay, so
yeah.
it's not to keep people from stealing their waffles.
He basically uses it in his argument against Josephus, the James brother of Jesus passage. He's like, Lego Menos, you can see, it would spark a digression. His argument being that it would, they'd explain what these titles meant and stuff.
Did you write that down or is that tattooed?
I just wrote it down.
Okay, I was about to say.
I don't do tattoos.
Yeah, I was about to say if you tattooed that, you would have been taking this a little too seriously.
Okay. Victory over death thing. Like, again, show me the Gospel of Mithras. Show me the gospel of any of these mystery religions.
Show us the panel in this comic book.
Well,
Comic book drink.
Well, technically, when you wrestle with a bull, you're kind of close to death. So prevailing over the bull was conquering death in a way.
Yeah, and also show me the panel or the reference in the Christian polemics that mentions Mithras being a Jesus. That mentions Jesus as salvation for the people being applied the same way in sense that the Mithraics were.
Yeah, I don't know if any. I think the only scholar that, if I remember correctly, the only scholar that actually ever argued anything similar to this at all was, I think, in like the 19th century.
Yeah.
And Roman scholars ever since have basically just been like, yeah, no.
So this is just a plug for anyone that actually wants to get a gist about Mithras. There's a YouTube channel called Religion for Breakfast with a doctor in religious studies who did a whole video on what we can know about the Mithras cult. He goes over debunking some of the claims made, and he goes over the fact that a lot of these claims came from polemic Enlightenment thinkers and modernist thinkers around the 17th and 18th century that were trying to make some kind of parallel between Jesus.
Another thing, but also, Inspiring Philosophy also has a series where he compares Jesus to every figure that's proposed to be ripped off of them, basically, and goes one step by step, debunks the similarities.
Yeah.
Well, there are.
And normally I don't endorse inspiring philosophy. I find a lot of his stuff really problematic, but I do endorse these videos. These videos are actually really good.
Yeah, and if you want an actual like introduction to the Mithras cult from a student of religious studies, go to Religion for Breakfast and look up his video on Mithras. That's a really good video.
Theomaki and HistoryNet, could you post the link to those videos that you were referring to in the comment section of this video that we're doing? That would be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have access to it right now.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna keep. Yeah, you guys do that. We're gonna go now through to the 23 to 24-minute mark, and then pause it because this is where our Orthodox Jew is gonna take control here.
Stories. They all have stories about them set in human history on Earth. Important. Yet none of them ever actually existed, as far as we know, and we have no reason to believe any of them existed. So to see Jesus as the sole exception to this trend, that he's the only one who actually existed, already is looking like an extraordinary claim. We're going to need some pretty good evidence to go against that and say that he existed, but Mithras didn't, for example. But again, they weren't all born on December 25th, and neither was Jesus for more than a century, etc. So let me tell you a little bit of the Jewish background. Remember, we're talking about syncretism. They took some of the pagan ideas, merged them with some Jewish ideas to create a new hybrid. What were some of the Jewish ideas that went into this? Philo of Alexandria writes between the 20s and 40s AD, shortly before the time of Paul, and right around the time of Christ, supposedly. And if you want more, not the impossible faith, I have the sources of the things I'm about to talk about. But in his writings, Philo of Alexandria tells us that there was already a pre-Christian Jewish belief in a celestial being who was actually named Jesus. So there's already a celestial being named Jesus who was called the firstborn son of God, who was the celestial image of God, who was God's agent of creation, and God's celestial high priest. And this is important because
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so I must give a disclaimer before I begin. And that disclaimer is my engagement in the topic of Hellenistic Judaism has only been in the periphery because my work's been primarily in Rabbinic Judaism and the Qumran sect. So my knowledge of Philo is quite superficial. So need to make that clear, going out. So I'm not a Philo scholar, haven't read his works in the original Greek. So, but there's a reason why I don't know that much about Philo. And the reason for that is the Jews in Judea in the first century, they didn't know much about Philo either. So the main issue that I have with Carrier and other mythicists' usage of Philo is they have a very overblown view of his importance to the Jewish world of first century Judea. They like to assert that Philo's works were highly influential to the time and area, and a lot of their talking points hinge on this premise. But the Jews of the first century in Judea, they were basically completely agnostic of his works. Philo is not mentioned anywhere that I'm aware of in any of the rabbinic literature. In fact, the first time we have any type of writings from any Jew talking about Philo isn't until the 1500s. So you have basically 15 centuries of the Jewish world ignoring him. So that doesn't really sound like a mover and a shaker that the mythicists like to try to frame him as. So Philo's influence, it basically was local to just Alexandria and maybe with a few educated Greek Jews scattered, outside of Egypt. So his writings would not in any way would have informed or influenced the beliefs or the imaginations or the ideas or the practices of those first groups of Jews, which made the beginnings of the Jesus movement in the first century in Judea. So, so the mythist assertion that all first century Jews loved and studied and revered the works of the mighty Philo and that he was one of the main pillars of the early Jesus movement is completely nonsense and inaccurate.
Yeah. and then there's also are you still wanting to continue?
No, that was it.
Okay. Yeah, there's also then the fact that Philo does not actually talk about a celestial Jesus. So say what he says in quote. 62. This is on 60. I believe it's okay. It's 1462 of On the Confusion of Tongues. I have also heard of one of the companions of Moses having uttered such a speech as this: Behold, a man whose name is East, a very novel appellation indeed, if you consider it as spoken of a man who is compounded of body and soul. But if you look upon it as applied to the incorporeal being who in no respect differs from the divine image, you will then agree that the name of East has been given to him with great felicity. For the Father of the universe has caused him to spring up as the eldest son, whom in another passage he calls the firstborn, and he who is thus born, imitating the ways of his father, has formed such and such species, looking to his archetypal patterns. You'll notice that the name Joshua or Yeshua never comes up. That was what Jesus' name was. Jesus is a Greek. It's a Latin translation of the Greek of the Hebrew. With after also the vowel and consonant shift in English, where we ended up getting J as a sound. So that fun mess. But the passage that he's citing is Zechariah 6:12, and if you go to Zechariah 6:12, which we can do here, basically they're talking to Joshua. Take a silver crown, make it ornate. Take silver and gold, make an ornate crown, and set it on the head of high priest Joshua, son of Jehozadak. And you are to tell him that this is what the Lord of hosts says: Behold, a man whose name is the branch or rising, and he will branch out from his place and build the temple of the Lord. First of what we need to note here is that Philo was working from a Greek translation of the Tanakh, not the Hebrew. So there's already that problem right off the bat. But then there's also the big issue that even in the Greek, this is not talking about Joshua. This is talking about a figure being prophesied before Joshua. And we also know that I can also guarantee that Philo is not saying that Joshua was the celestial figure. You know why? Because Joshua, a figure also mentioned in Ezra and Haggai, is not a celestial being. He's the high priest. He was the first high priest of the second temple.
Yep.
Oh, I think where he's trying to get at is that the second temple deifying of people like Enoch, Moses, Elijah. Might be trying to say that this high priest Joshua was deified also for whatever reason.
No, he's not. He's literally saying that they were talking about a celestial Jesus.
But like that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Somehow without an angelic name.
Yeah. Well, occasionally there were exceptions to the convention of naming angels. Like again, Enoch. Enoch is deified quasi.
As a Metatron.
Unlike Moses, Enoch is never actually called God. He is called an angel. So it kind of happens there. Moses is deified. He goes from a human and is called God in one of the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's a lot, and as Brack pointed out, there's also Elijah. these occasionally happen, but it does violate the normal naming convention of angels, generally ending in the divine epithet L or some fashion, like Michael or Gabriel.
Yeshua.
Azrael, Michael.
Exactly. So it does violate that that general naming convention, which isn't totally out of the question to happen. It does occur on occasion. But then there's also the problem that the passage is not talking about Joshua. Larry Hurtado has already pointed this out to Carrier.
Hurtado.
And then Carrier responded that he's ignorant. And if he had read Carrier's book, he would know all about this. Carrier's greatest and most favorite person in the world is himself.
Hey, Chris, available on Kindle.
Except Hurtado did read it. He actually pointed to each pages and passages of what he was talking about and debunked his arguments.
Yeah, well, Hurtado does. I think he admitted though that he hadn't read the whole thing. He just said that it was he just went to some parts in particular, but yeah, it's.
Well, Bart Ehrman and Tim O'Neill read it.
Definitely. They've definitely. I mean, Tim O'Neill definitely has read it. Bart might have. Bart just has zero interest in actually talking about it or
because it's not scholarship.
Well,
yeah, he's a teacher and he writes books on history.
Yeah,
he's actually a professional scholar. So he's not like us where we have all this free time on our hands.
Yeah. As he said when he debated Price and Frank Zindler asked him, "Why haven't you responded to our response to your book?" He said, "I'm just doing other things with my life."
I remember that.
That's epic.
I would respond to your 300-page book with a 600-page book, then you'd respond with a 500-page book, and then my response would be a 600-page book.
It was the 600-page book, 800-page book, 1,200. Yeah, it
never ending.
Yeah, and I just have other things I'm doing with my life.
Frank Zindler is also not a scholar. He's a biologist.
Well, he's a scholar. He's just not a scholar of the Bible.
What was his name again?
Biblical literature or history. Frank Zindler.
Frank Zindler?
Yeah.
What's his special?
He does have a mythicist book out there. Actually, I'll link it to you, Brack. It's all over Judaic literature.
Oh boy.
And why it doesn't prove Jesus was, or think that Jesus was a historical figure.
Wait, say this again. I was looking at the chat. I was distracted. Say that again.
Frank Zindler's book on mythicism is all over Judaic literature, and why it doesn't prove Jesus was a historical figure.
Yeah. Hook me up with that later, bro. Yeah.
I will.
Right.
It's special. Okay.
Yeah.
Continuing on.
Every single one of these is a Christian belief that we can find in the letters of Paul, except for the high priest bit, which we find in Hebrews, which is very early text, I believe. So what we're looking at here, the earliest books that we have, the earliest texts of Christianity that we have, all are talking about Jesus as the same Jesus figure that Philo is talking about, the celestial deity that was not an incarnate God. He was a celestial God from the beginning. It's clear that somehow the Christians came into believing that this celestial Jesus came to earth, assumed the form of a man, or if he came to earth at all, that's the question we're going to ask, but he assumed the form of a man and then died and rose back to heaven and so on. So whether you're talking about historicity, a historical Jesus, or a non-historical Jesus, we have to deal with the fact that Christianity began as a belief that Jesus was this Jesus. He was already a celestial Jesus even before Christianity came around. And
no.
Drink.
That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted to say.
Drink.
Well, it could be possible.
Yeah. The world, being a god, and this is all my delusion, is also possible.
I have my sources right here. God damn it! Let me read my goddamn sources.
Oh yeah, the 10% brain myth is also possible.
Okay. What does Paul say about Jesus? Galatians.
Well, he says he was a celestial being killed by the Archon demons in outer space.
Of course.
Down.
Oh, he's gonna get to the cosmic sperm bank.
Anyways,
Can't wait.
Galatians 4:4, born of a woman, and also Galatians 4:4, born as a Jew. 1 Corinthians 9:5 and Galatians 1:19 had brothers. Romans 15:8, Jesus ministered principally to Jews.
Those are all myths, man. All happening in space.
First
Can't get any
Corinthians,
celestial than that.
1 Corinthians 11:23, Jesus was betrayed. 1 Corinthians 11 verses 20 to 29, Jesus had the Last Supper. That doesn't sound like a man in outer space.
He did it all in outer space.
Celestially speaking.
He did it all in outer space, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm out of booze, guys. Don't do this.
It all happened in outer space where everybody eats, drinks, and dies, gets buried, and then rises again somewhere.
Exactly. I know that's what I always do. Whenever I feel like dying, I go to outer space. I go do it up there, and then I come back down here.
The space bit
In the form of a hallucination to torment Theo.
Yeah. well, maybe not hallucinate. Maybe but
no, it's a hallucination because Carrier says that these are all hallucinations.
Don't you find it convenient that literally every reference to a human Jesus has to be explained away in some contrived manner?
Yeah, that's awfully convenient.
Well, that's because convenience is what's best.
Yeah, fuck Occam's razor.
I mean, I wouldn't suggest it. Razors are pretty sharp, but if you're into that,
Cuts both ways.
Don't kink shame me, goddammit.
Okay, continuing on. Actually, we are at 9:20. We are at 9:21.
What?
Do we want to skip ahead some? Actually, wait. I think I saw the Ascension of Isaiah in here. Yes. The Ascension of Isaiah. We're going to skip ahead to the Ascension of Isaiah.
Okay. Oh, yes, this is the big one.
I think.
Well, for me. Right.
Oh, this is.
He's taught that there's versions of things in the lower heavens that are copies of the thing just below the moon, for example. He's taken up, and Satan and the demons control the outer space region below the moon. And there's also up there in that version of heaven. And then he gets the angel that's bringing him up through this ascension is bringing him up to other levels of heaven. So he goes to the first level, the second level, and so on, all the way to the seventh level of heaven. Just so you know, there's 7 levels of heaven. And he gets up there, gets a tour of these heavens, and then is taught at the top that God tells him, well, you're going to meet Jesus, I'm going to send him down. He's going to defeat the devil and then come back up and be Lord of the universe, and so on. And then after God explains what Jesus is going to do, Jesus does it. And Isaiah is there as if he's like looking into the future, seeing Jesus descend and engage in all this activity and ascend and all of that. So.
Okay, I think we all just need to like swig a lot. We've had outer space. We've had Satan and the moon.
I'm sweating profusely at this point.
Chris, Brian, I'm out of booze. Drink twice as much for me, goddammit.
Oh, I can't. I will not survive this podcast.
Me neither.
I am out of booze. You guys got to do this for me, goddammit. I'm going at this sober.
Well, this Angry Orchard is a lot better than the wine, I'll say that.
Okay.
Dang.
Okay, we've still got more Ascension to go. We just need a drink break here.
So this is how this text proceeds. In the earliest redaction of this, which we can reconstruct through a literary analysis and from the fact that we have manuscripts that lack key parts of it, there was no visit to Earth. Jesus doesn't make it to Earth. He appears to die and be killed by the devil in outer space, by the devil and his demons, and is buried and resurrected there, and then rises from there. For example, in the main text, the text we have from the Ethiopian church, for example, there's a whole earthly gospel tacked in where he gets to Earth, he's born to Mary, Pontius Pilate crucifies him, and the whole deal. But that whole pocket gospel doesn't fit the style of the rest of the text. So we know it's actually
It's the Ethiopians, of course.
It's a pocket gospel, guys. It's a pocket gospel.
With Ethiopians in space.
In outer space.
I love, okay, say what you want about how trash his book is. At least it's entertaining.
Yeah, it's funnier hearing it live, though.
Oh, it is. It's so much fun, especially coming out of Richard Carrier's mouth. I mean,
They came.
And the hand movements and the seven heavens and the this and the that.
Guys, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I'm in my fucking bed. I'm on my fucking deathbed. Swing.
You know what, motherfucker? After like 2 solid streams of you torturing me with Akari S and freaking Gandhi, you deserve this. You little bitch.
What timestamp are we on?
We're at 29 minutes. After Ascension of Isaiah, we're going to skip ahead because Brock is going to have to go relatively soon. So he's going to get priority once the Ascension is over.
But just real fast, if I'm getting tortured for this, what we did previously, the next torture's on you. We're doing Moses and Monotheism by Sigmund Freud. With booze, damn it.
Or Achariah S to Jesus.
No. We're having an agreement that we'll never talk about her again.
And yet we keep bringing her up. Okay, let's just go.
Actually, an interpolation. Someone inserted that text. Now, we have versions of the text in Latin, for example, and in various other languages like Slavonic that lack this tacked-in gospel. So we know it wasn't there originally.
When he says various other languages, he just means Slavonic. We only have 2 other versions that don't have the pocket gospel.
And there are various other arguments that you can pose to show this. So once you take that out, what you have left is a Jesus who descends only to the level of this outer space just below the moon where he's killed by the demon and the devil, not by Pontius Pilate and the Jews.
Except that even in the Slavonic and the Latin text, he actually does go down to the earth.
He said space beneath the moon, drink.
I need to make another drink here. I'll drink in a minute. I need to let sit. Let's just talk about this. In the main text of the Ascension of Isaiah itself, which Carrier doesn't know, for example, it actually says that, it says here, where is it? I think it was on this page. Here we go. Okay. And I heard the words of the Most High, of the Father my Lord, as he spoke to my Lord Christ, who shall be called Jesus. Go and descend through all the heavens, so all 7, descend to the firmament, so he's now at the firmament, and to that world, even to the angel in the realm of the dead, but to hell you shall not go. So he descends all the way to earth. It says that right there. And you know what?
There's this.
And you know what I don't get? You know what I don't get is that Carrier bold-faced that and missed it.
Haven't you heard? There's this other sublunar fleshy realm that's also called Earth.
Look,
in our space.
Chris, don't you know?
I remember your. Oh, go ahead.
Don't you know that the Earth is still beneath the moon?
Well, okay, yes, figured. Okay.
Yeah.
But
well, I figured that, given that I look at the moon every night. But
oh, is that what we're looking at? Oh, you know what? It was funny because I remember your reaction to actually catching that in the text. It was
oh my goodness, I was freaking out, wasn't I?
I remember that. That was hilarious.
Wait, guys, that's the moon? I thought that was where they got the cheese from my Cheetos.
Well, you got enough of it.
If you ask some flat earthers, they might actually believe that. Okay, we're going to skip ahead because
and the moon landing was directed by Stanley Kubrick with more faulty cameras.
Well, that too.
If Stanley Kubrick directed it, I could believe it. Okay, we're going to skip ahead so that to Brock's portion here.
Wasn't even operating at the time that Christianity came about. So obviously there was no eternal throne of David, and certainly there was no immortal king, right? Because he's been saying there's one guy that he's going to make from the sperm of David who's going to rule forever. So what do? You say, well, this passage says that God took sperm from David's belly, literally, and then from it would create an eternal ruler. Well, obviously, what you might conclude is that God basically has a cosmic sperm bank. He took this sperm from the belly of David and is holding it in reserve in outer space until the time that he's going to make a Messiah out of it, a Messiah who will rule forever, not just your ordinary, but a king who would live forever and rule on the throne forever. So there are ways to explain why mythicists or early Jesus cultists who would believe in this cosmic Jesus and this cosmically incarnated Jesus would say that he was born of the sperm of David. They had to say it scripturally, and they had obvious and easy ways to come up with cosmic explanations for how that could be. And then the next passage is
Drink. God damn it.
All of the celebration. You know what? This
refuse
deserves
to
a
drink.
sip of vodka straight.
Yes. Make it a big one because I'm out of booze, damn it.
I refuse to take another drop until we get to the cosmic sperm bank.
We just did.
Yeah, that's what he just said.
Oh shit! I'm sorry.
Oh, here. I'll rewind it for you so you can hear it.
One more time, please. Yes. I think I'm a little buzzed.
David who's going to rule forever. So what do? You say, well, this passage says that God took sperm from David's belly, literally, and then from it would create an eternal ruler. Well, obviously, what you might conclude is that God basically has a cosmic sperm bank, that he took this sperm from the belly of David.
Cosmic sperm bank, people. We're here. We're here. You know what? You know where we just hit? We've hit what's called rock fucking bottom.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is mythicism.
Okay, Brack.
All right.
Go into it. You want your slides here?
Yeah.
Here we go. Can everyone see the slides?
Okay, so I might be making a video about this eventually, which is addressing Carrier's idea of the cosmic sperm bank. So when he deals with this, it's going to reveal quite a few items in regards to Carrier's scholarship. So the passage he was talking about in 2 Samuel, you can see here on the screen, I have a snapshot from his book on page 576. And I'll go ahead and zoom. And you can see where he's talking about it. At the very last sentence, it says, thus Paul could be saying the name.
Hey, Brack, you haven't gone to the
Can't
slide.
see it. Yeah,
You
you're
can't
still
see
on
the slide.
one.
You don't see the slides? What do you see?
You're still on slide 1.
Yep.
Huh, that's weird. I had advanced.
Are you doing a
I love that jelly.
a slideshow of it?
Yeah.
That's why it right now it's on the it's tied to. There we go. Now
There we go.
So I need a screen show differently then. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry guys. I'm new to this, so let me go ahead and
No banking involved.
let me go ahead do desktop instead. Okay, should have tested that out. Okay, so you guys can see it full screen now?
Now we can. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so here's
Good.
from page 576, and we zoom in, and it says, Scripture said the prophet Nathan was instructed by God to tell King David, here following the Septuagint translation, although the Hebrew does not substantially differ, and then he quotes it. And then he says, if this passage were read like a pesher, and a pesher was a very unique interpretation method that was used at Qumran. It wasn't used within the rabbinic strands of Judaism at the time. One could easily conclude that God was saying that he extracted semen from David and held it in reserve until the time he would make good on his promise of David's progeny sitting on an eternal throne. So let's go ahead and actually look at the text that he's talking about. So it says, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels. Now, hopefully you can see my mouse movement. So right here is the word for seed or semen, zarah. And then we have the phrase, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, asher yaser mimecha. Now, what's interesting about this is this exact same verbiage and usage is found in Genesis when God is telling Abram about him having a son. And it says, behold, to me thou hast given no seed. And you can look here in the Hebrew. It's the exact same word. Even if you can't read Hebrew, you can see that the characters look the same. And then at the bottom, but he that shall come forth out of thy own bowels. And if you look here with the Hebrew, it's the exact same phrase, exact same spelling, same pointing. It's the exact same phrase. And no one in the right mind would think that Isaac was created in a cosmic sperm bank. God, extracted semen out of Abram and then used a turkey baster on Sarai. That didn't happen, right? It happened through the good old-fashioned natural way, right?
Basically like a chicken.
What was that?
I said basically like a chicken.
Oh, oy.
So now this is where his scholarship kind of gets kind of shady, in my opinion.
What scholarship?
So if you go to the very bottom paragraph, it says, it would not be unimaginable that God could maintain a cosmic sperm bank. After all, God's power was absolute, and all sorts of things could be stored up in heaven. And then skipping down a little, it says, later Jewish legend, and this is where it starts to irk me. Later Jewish legend imagined demons running their own cosmic sperm bank. Even Dylan gave his sperm for it to beget his enemies with. So surely God could be imagined doing the same. So notice the footnote, the citation that he gives, number 85, where it says, and later Jewish legend, the demoness Igroth was believed to collect semen from sleeping men, and once did so from David himself, using his sperm to beget rival kings. So let's go ahead to that actual citation. So here it is from the Encyclopedia of Jewish Myth, Magic, and Mysticism that was written by Rabbi Dennis. And the first thing I gotta say that there's some typos in this. So where it says here, the citation, let me move my mouse, where it says Pesachim 110a is actually 111a, and then also down here where it says Mishnah Sanhedrin 11.1 is actually 711. But anyways, if you notice over here at the bottom of the first page, it tells a story about two women coming to King Solomon. So those who are familiar with the story, it's the two prostitutes that, with Solomon, with the sword, divide the baby in half. So
Yeah.
what's that?
The so-called pie slicing.
Yeah. So anyway, so according to this story, to this Jewish folklore, the two prostitutes were actually two demons, Lilith and Ignat. So if you notice, the story in this encyclopedia is citing another book, which is Bataille's Gates to the Old City. So let's go ahead to that book. So here is page 459 from the Gates of the Old City, and I'll kind of zoom in there so it's easier to read. And here's the exact same story that you have that was in the encyclopedia. And the citation at the bottom, and this is where it gets annoying, is just the school of the Rashba. Now, the Rashba was a rabbi from the 1300s. He did, commentaries, and he was Kabbalist. So he was heavily steeped in the tradition of Jewish mysticism. So here's the thing. Carrier's work that he did on this book, this was his postdoc, peer-reviewed magnus opus, basically. And he is citing an encyclopedia which cites a book from the 1980s, which cites a legend from the 1300s and doesn't properly cite it so we can actually find it in the original text and actually read it within its context. How can you get away with that with a peer-reviewed work? Quoting a tertiary source? That's just boggles my mind and really annoys me. And then to take this folklore from the 1300s and then try to assert, well, all the Jews during the time of Jesus would have thought of this. They would have had no crazy reservations to thinking of this story. They'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. How? I'm sorry I'm getting heated. It just really annoys me. But here's the kicker. You ready? Because remember, he said, according to this legend, the demon extracted the sperm and went to the cosmic ATM machine to make a deposit, right? So let's go ahead and read. So we go down to right here with the fourth line. One night, King David slept in the camp in the desert, and Igrod coupled with him in his dream, and he had emission. And she conceived and bore Adad. Okay, notice he had an emission. She got pregnant and bore this king of Edom. There's no time lapse. It's not sitting in some cosmic sperm bank for centuries on end before someone gets their cosmic ATM card and does a withdrawal or something. It happened immediately. So even if this legend was theoretically from the 1st century, which I wasn't able to find any evidence for, and he should have, in my opinion, if he's going to use this for his support, and it was immediate. There was no gap in time. There was no sperm bank in action. So,
yeah. And there's also something about the Jewish high priests would on their festival. They would have the high priest stay up all night because they feared that he would have a. They're so
correct. Yes. In the Mishnah, it tells the story of the preparations and the procedures for the service on the Day of Atonement. So in the Mishnah, it details that the high priest was purposely kept up all night long with the sages who would read him Torah throughout the night, in order to prevent him from falling asleep. And the text says, lest an accident happens to him. Because if he did fall asleep and had a seminal emission, he would be ritually impure and disqualified from performing the rituals for that day. And remember, Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, this is a very, very huge day. So if semen defiles the earthly temple, then it would only go to argue that it would definitely defile the heavenly temple in the heavenly realms. So the idea of there being sperm up in heaven, God has it next to his side or something, is completely ridiculous. So yeah, you're right on with that history. Right on.
Well, I actually feel sorry for people who think this is actually a good argument and that a cosmic sperm angel is more plausible for the origin of Christianity than a 1st century Jewish preacher out of many. Such a stupid fucking argument.
Well, that's that. I mean,
exactly.
It's worse than the Nephilim.
Yeah, I mean, consider Occam's razor. What's more likely? That you have to make this elaborate argument centered around some ancient Jewish science fiction that isn't really there, or a guy existed and made a bunch of people believe this.
Exactly. Especially in the context during this time period, there were a lot of messianic movements and apocalypticism. I mean, Jesus fit perfectly within that context.
Right. Like, okay, for example, I helped Paul Gia out with something recently. I listed 20 different apocalyptic works of the 1st and 2nd centuries CE.
Yep.
The apocalypticists like Jesus would have been a dime a bloody dozen.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you get this Bayesian whole arbitrary point scoring, like, oh, this is a guy that looks like he was human, but he became a god, but he didn't. A god that was put into history. Point for mythicism. I mean, okay, a Jewish apocalypticist that there's a dime a dozen. There's tons of them. Plenty of points right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
This also goes along, though, with another thing I pointed out in my paper that I wrote on this topic. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it, and I'm going to bring it up here for you guys so you can look at it. So here is my academia.edu page, if any of you want to check it out. Actually, let me check real quick who's been reading my papers.
I checked it out.
Yeah, it was you. Okay. Actually, real quick, just to prove that what I said is true, there's Richard right there. So Richard has been reading it, and actually, if you look right here, he's been reading it on multiple days. He's been reading this over a couple days here.
Oh, this is going to get very fun. The suspense is terrible. I hope it'll last.
So this is what I wrote on the last page. If you guys want to just go take a look at it, I just go through. I use every primary source that Carrier mentions and they are the arguments that he makes are specifically on page 56 and 57 of his book. I do not go to a bunch of tertiary and secondary sources. I go straight to the primary sources for this. Wow,
you actually bothered to do that. That's amazing, Chris.
Yeah.
Who would have thought of doing such things?
So here's how here's my conclusion for it. Because I had a lot of issues with this, especially with the way he portrayed things, particularly with Plutarch. With Plutarch, he actually harmonizes different accounts in order to make his argument work.
Read what he says about Plutarch.
What?
Read what he says about Plutarch first.
Oh, okay. This is what he says about Plutarch, and anyone with even a rudimentary understanding of Plutarch and the life of Romulus knows that this is wrong. In Plutarch's biography of Romulus, the founder of Rome, we are told he was the son of God, born of a virgin. An attempt is made to kill him as a baby, and he is saved and raised by a poor family, becoming a lowly shepherd. Then, as a man, he becomes beloved by the people, hailed as king, and killed by the conniving elite. Then he rises from the dead, appears to a friend to tell the good news to his people, and ascends to heaven to rule from on high, just like Jesus.
I feel
real quick. Just like Jesus is its own sentence in the book. That's not a complete sentence, Richard.
I feel like I'm dying.
He was the Romulus was the son of the god of war, not God itself.
Sweet.
Okay. It's okay, V. Here's what I said here's how my conclusion to this all. Using Carrier's own sources, one will find that several of his central claims are without any foundation. None of them record a Romulus who was born of a virgin or without sexual intercourse, as is the case in Jesus' mythos, and none of them record Romulus dying and rising from the dead. Instead, all of them recount him being either killed or ascending to heaven, where he was then deified. In the case of those who thought he ascended, there is no way that his later appearance was a resurrection. In the cases of, because he didn't die in those cases. In the cases of his death, there is no clear indication of this, given that post-death apparitions, not without resurrection, were indeed a belief in ancient Roman and Greek societies, as previously noted. And I cite Protesilaus as an example of that. Carrier's further attempts to harmonize stories with each other and merge accounts is problematic, especially when using Plutarch as his basis. His tactics simply do not hold up, and the scholarship is specious at best. It is astounding these glossary claims were ever published in an academic book, though one can question the knowledge of the peer reviewers who did not find it necessary to follow Carrier's footnotes and prevent such nonsensical claims from being published. As noted with my Zalmoxis analysis, Carrier's work is problematic. He, however, continues to use these poor examples in his lectures as samples of dying and rising and virgin-born gods. And I footnote one of his lectures from 2018 in February, where he does this on Valentine's Day, actually. It's on YouTube. This is despite the fact that he has written a blog post, even issuing comments that Romulus is not a good example of a virgin birth several years previously. Again, another one where he says Plutarch's biography, in which Romulus declares to Proculus that he was a pre-existent god who became incarnate, another direct analogy to Jesus in Christian theology, even as early as the time of Paul, would normally entail Romulus could not have been begotten by intercourse. We still have no extant version of that account, whatever it was. So I think we can knock Romulus off the good examples. His mother was famously a virgin, but not in a less exact sense. He even says that we can knock him off the list. So to continue with the ending of this, this indicates that he knows Romulus is not a good example of this, and yet continuously uses him anyways. As such, one can conclude from this that Carrier's scholarship in this matter does not seem to care for accuracy as much as agenda, and that the peer reviewers were either unknowledgeable, in which case I must wonder if they were actually peers, or also fine with this shoddy reading of ancient writings, which can make one wonder the quality of the publishing house and its readers in general.
I'm not going to make it.
That's how I ended my last paper in response to Carrier on Romulus.
And so many people still fall. I'm going to die, you guys. But you belong to Debbie. You are Debbie's love toy. You are Mr. Debbie.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's continue on. Actually, let's go back because we did end up skipping a bit. We just want to make sure that I want to make sure that Brett could get in there because he has to go at 10, right?
That is correct, sir, and I much appreciate it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you want to go back to where we left off before, or just keep going from here?
Back from where we left off before, because then we can laugh our butts off at the cosmic sperm bank again. It is so entertaining that, you know, I give Carrier this. If he wanted to become a stand-up comedian, I would show up everywhere he went, first seat. Like first row right there. I would be right there just to watch it.
You should read his entire blog site is a goldmine of unintentional comedy.
I know.
You should have seen the entry where he was begging for a date with a former prostitute.
I will get to that. At the end of the stream, I have a blog post that I just posted about why I'm never going to have dialogue with Carrier, ever. I won't be responding to him. If he makes a whining complaint bitch post about my papers, I'm not going to be responding to them. But there are some wonderful things to point out in his blog. They're just amazing. Just gold. Okay, here we go.
Packed in gospel, so we know it wasn't there originally. Names in the Sumerian religion, she instead of going through the levels of descending to the levels of heaven, she descended through the levels of hell and was killed by a death spell by the god of hell. And then her naked body was nailed up. So she's basically crucified.
Not nailed up. She's hung on a hook like a piece of meat.
You have her with you.
But, you know, those are totally the same things, right? Meat hooks, crucifixions, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
What were you saying?
Absolutely.
Also, as Godless Engineer points out, she's the perfect skeleton for the Jesus character.
Oh. Okay, John, I love you. I really like you, John. You are a really nice guy. I've adored your work throughout the years. But you talk like Carrier. That's not a good thing.
Oh, he's such a wonderful sweet.
But Chris, Carrier is such a great historian.
Yeah, I'll let that slide.
Came down to resurrect her, and it was all part of her plan for this to happen. And she's resurrected, and she ascends back up through the levels of hell, and the story proceeds from there. Now, this is another example of one of those dying and rising god cults. It was originally an agricultural cult. We have evidence that possibly this cult survived in other forms, but we don't have a lot of evidence of that. But the fact that there are so many similarities.
We have evidence of that, but we don't have a lot of evidence of that. Wait, what? I love how he just contradicts himself within like 2 sentences.
Wait, rewind that again.
That lack this tacked-in gospel, so we know it wasn't there originally. And there are various other arguments that you can pose to show this. So once you take that out, what you have left is a Jesus who descends only to the level of this outer space just below the moon, where he's killed by the demons and the devil, not by...
outer space, killed by demons under the moon. Drink, everybody, drink.
I'm out of booze, damn it.
Oh yeah, they.
Okay, I'll drink extra for you.
Thank you.
They're Maki.
They came from outer space.
Okay, it's time for a chaser.
Get it? They came from outer space.
Got it.
I need a chaser now. I have officially. This is my 4th one of these. I need water.
Yeah, drink water.
Okay.
You goddamn.
It's not actually water. I went to the Cosmic Sperm Bank and I got a deposit. Actually, what I mean, a withdrawal, not a deposit. But anyways,
No return.
Hey!
So you're drinking cum?
You've seen that scene on TED 2 where they were in the sperm bank. He was like, "It's in my mouth."
Okay, let's go.
It's a bit of cum, you guys.
Let's go.
Come on in, the water's fine. Oh, wait.
Okay, guys, let's go.
So Jesus is crucified by Satan in outer space in the earliest redaction of this.
Outer space, there we go.
I think I'm dying here, man.
I want to die with you. Come on, man.
Okay.
But hey, guys, I need to duck on out. I had fun
and
enjoy the rest of the stream, guys.
Thank you very much for joining us, Brack. It was invaluable having you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. You guys have a good one.
Yes, thank you for coming on.
Also, comment right now. Shimmerson says Samuel Noah Kramer is spinning in his grave right now.
Who's that?
Samuel Noah Kramer was one of the leading Sumeriologists. He basically was one of the leading scholars and helped revolutionize a lot of our ideas of ancient Sumer. So yeah, he is definitely spinning in his grave right now.
Also, okay, who would you say revolutionized New Testament studies?
What time? In what time frame? In the 19th century, it was definitely the German scholars.
I mean, yeah.
No, never mind.
Anyway, Carrier is to that guy what Zechariah Sitchin is to Samuel Noah Kramer.
Oh, that's some pain right there. You are wow, History Net's dishing it up tonight. Oh. Okay, here we go. More.
Now, the narrative, there are many aspects of this narrative that are very similar to another narrative that dates back 2,000 years before Christ, which is the descent of Inanna. Inanna, also known as Astarte and various other names, in the Sumerian religion, she instead of going through the levels of descending to the levels of heaven, she descended through the levels of hell and was killed by a death spell by the god of hell. And then her naked body was nailed up. So she's basically crucified. And then some of her helpers came down.
Basically crucified. No. Just no.
Chris, don't you have Inanna with you too to explain?
Oh, Inanna. Kitty. Just a sec. I'm going to go grab Inanna.
Inanna.
You guys entertain the public.
Like this.
Right. Okay, so what do you drink in history?
Fruit beer. I got
and I'm out of booze, so I'm sad. I'm dying literally because I can't kill my liver. I have to just let my body go now. There.
Well, we all got to die sometime. Oh, what was that? Angry Richard?
I'm
Wrong.
just gonna say I'm really starting to feel the alcohol right now. I am legitimately a little bit tipsy at the moment.
But you know that movie Lucy makes more sense than Carrier's whole thesis.
Oh.
You know how 10% of our brain.
Okay, Inanna, tell us, does Carrier make any sense about this at all? That's what I thought. Here, okay, good kitty. You can be a shelf cat.
Is that your PTSD animal?
Yeah, my comfort animal.
Yeah. What do they call them? There's a proper term, and it's not coming to me.
It's Inanna back from the dead.
Yeah.
No. Oh my goodness. Okay, and you know what I don't get is that if he wants to talk about dying and rising deities, why doesn't he use actual legit examples? Why does he keep arguing for nonsense examples? Why doesn't he talk about people like Baal? Like, Baal actually dies and rises. Like, why? And he's Phoenician. He was right there.
You're going to give him new ideas.
Chris.
Anyway.
Chris, I'm the one that's supposed to be dying here, okay? I'm the one that...
Okay, yeah, but I'm getting a little... I'm getting a little tipsy here.
Actually,
my filter is going to start just draining as the night goes on. So
ungrateful bastard.
It was actually Baal, but in the New Testament, they compared Jesus to they gave him Cloud Rider title as the polemic.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Baal, Baal, whatever, both pronunciations are acceptable.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah.
He wasn't crucified though.
No, he wasn't. But he did die and rise. He legitimately did die and rise. At least from what we can tell from the Baal cycle.
And he didn't die for anybody's sins. He just died because he died.
Yeah, he died because he was an idiot and invited Mott over to his house.
Yeah.
Note to self, everyone. If you get an ego, don't invite Mott over to your house. He devours everything, including you. But he in his book, he does reference Baal, and he does reference Heracles Melkart. Let me see, or right here. This footnote right here at the bottom, he references them.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna say, so he references Tryggve Mittinger. Tryggve has been met by quite a bit of opposition. Tryggve is one of the only scholars in the entire world that actually still thinks that dying and rising mythotype was a thing. Most don't really think it's a thing at all anymore. No matter.
That archetype's been debunked.
Oh yeah.
It was popularized by Joseph Campbell, and particularly
in the same footnote. Carrier does reference himself in his
of course.
In his self-published book, not published by any academic press anywhere, not The Impossible Faith. This was published by Lulu.com. You can publish your books and get them in hardcover.
And it was basically a response to JP Holdings.
Yeah, it's mostly just a response to just apologetics, mostly. And
he's bad at that even.
Yeah, well, and half his responses are also really bad. And you know what's also really funny? Just completely side note, and I just lost my earbud. But side note, Carrier lost his mind when absolutely went on a rampage on Carrier because Carrier just calls him a classicist in his Did Jesus Exist? If you actually go to Not the Impossible Faith, though, and if you go to page 100, right here, you'll notice something. He says that on the radio show, The Infidel Guy, with Christian apologist Gary Habermas and Mike Licona, He just calls them apologists. Mike Licona and Gary Habermas both have PhDs and are New Testament historians.
And are actually scholars.
Well, I don't like Habermas at all. I think he's just an evangelically biased nut for the most part.
Yeah, but Licona goes where he feels.
But Lacona's a legit scholar.
Yeah.
He might get spanked by he gets spanked by airmen every time he debates airmen, but he's still a legit scholar.
Yeah.
What do you make of his debate with Carrier?
I have not actually seen his debate with Carrier yet.
Carrier acts nothing like he does on his blogs. He's actually very nice on public stage.
I know that's because he can't get away with it.
I have a
On
thesis.
public stage.
Bayesian probability tells me there's two Carriers. There's one's a doppelganger, as is, his phantom, one might say. One is the wannabe academic on stage debating, who's actually a nice, personable guy. Then there's the internet, the insecure rage blogger who trash talks its critics.
Yeah.
So basically, a Jekyll and Hyde.
More like a kind of like a big boss venom snake kind of thing.
Okay, let's move on.
If you play Metal Gear Solid 5, you'll get that reference.
Actually, real quick, I gotta go use the restroom because I've been drinking a lot of alcohol.
All right, young.
So before we start, you guys entertain the crowd. Brian, you're in charge. Make sure they aren't like make sure they're not too insulting, but some stuff can slide.
Here, I got something. Betty Page. Woo!
Oh yeah, she was something.
Oh yeah, Betty Page was. That's why I got a poster of her.
I had no idea you had such appreciation for the classics.
Yeah. I'm into vintage and
bless your heart.
And my taste in clothing and music and women, it's kind of her fault, and also the fault of like jazz musicians that I love from the 20s.
Hey Ben, what do you think so far?
I came in I got back about halfway in, but I'm liking
okay.
it.
So what are your thoughts on Betty Page?
What? Oh, on Betty Page?
Oh well, Betty Page, yeah.
Betty Page was fine as fuck, bro.
Oh yeah, that's
age, she was great. Yeah, it's amazing. Up to this point, what we've covered so far, I cannot, in good conscience, maintain a mythicist position. There's just no way. I don't know how you feel, Jim, if you're still with us, but I'm sorry.
But is Carrier a mythicist?
Yeah. Oh, he's definitely
he's the Pope of mythicism.
That explains everything.
Well, it's one thing if you have legitimate arguments, that's one thing. But to take it's like young Earth creationists reading a science journal, taking one little phrase and then expanding a whole thesis on it. It's like you didn't bring everything in you're not using it in context.
Worse than that. I used to think mythicism was atheism's young Earth creationism, but it's atheism's flat Earth at this point.
And I was actually interested in mythicism myself, but what knocked me out of it was when I realized all the historical revisionism going on, especially around Rome. When I heard what they were saying about the Roman Empire and Roman religions, because I thought Roman religions from the ancient world were actually really interesting, and I started those. But when I read the mythicists, they talked about gospels and passion plays about Romulus, and I looked that up, and I was like, what the fuck are these people talking about? Is your ass okay?
Shimmer.
Right. I mean, so basically, you have this dishonesty.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
Hey.
Back.
Yeah, Chris.
He's drunk.
Yeah, Chris. I was just saying that it's just utter dishonesty is what I'm seeing. Example after example after example, and I can't support it. I don't know anybody who actually fact checked any of these claims.
Because they don't. Carrier knows that his gullible readers won't check his sources. But even Wayne Lane Craig warned his audience about that. If Carrier gives you a source, you better check it.
Yeah, and I don't like William Lane Craig, but I agree with that.
Yeah,
Hey, Brian.
and when he becomes the voice of reason, we're too far gone.
Did you see Shimerson's latest comment? Says Medinger would probably shoot himself knowing Carrier cited him.
Well, yeah, that's like Jerry Coyne and what's his face being cited by Kent Hovind.
Oh,
It's
I've got Jerry Coyne.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you guys ever heard of Rational Wiki?
Oh,
yes.
Can we never talk about Rational Wiki? I love their articles on Kent and a few other people, but
less reliable than Wikipedia, and is basically used as Conservapedia.
Yeah, like I'm with Armored Skeptic and Shoe on Head when they say you do not want to use this as your source for anything, because Richard Carrier has a page on it. The first quote it says above here is, "If you don't hear it from me, be skeptical of it."
Are you serious?
I'm not shitting you.
Oh, he also said that's the function of my writing. It ends all rational debate. Therefore, any responses to my work is deemed.
Could you cite those quotes in the chat, and I will put them in the YouTube chat?
Yeah, I'd love to see quotes. I was listening to the video, and I didn't hear like any direct statements where he said it was a blatant copy or a blatant ripoff. But wouldn't you agree that like all past concepts are borrowed in future tense? Like we look at just look at the movies and the things we remake, or the concepts we borrow to develop new ideas.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is that we generally don't like yes, borrowing of gods or syncretism of gods kind of did happen occasionally, but it didn't happen when it's just an apocalyptic creature wandering around.
I agree.
We don't have Enoch being syncretized with a god. We don't have Moses being syncretized with a god. We don't have other apocalyptic figures being syncretized with gods.
Well, it
just doesn't happen.
If you read the Bible, the Christian God is very much so a developed God. Like the God that would be presented to Moses is a very, very different God from what we get presented by the time we're at Revelation.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, and that thing definitely happened with Jesus too. We definitely see that in the Gospels with him becoming more and more extravagant and stuff like that as time went on.
Right.
But the funny thing about that is that even if you do use like the Abrahamic deity, we don't even know where the worship of Yahweh started. Anywhere. We have no idea.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So at the bottom of this paragraph,
what is his first? Well, his first mention is with Moses, correct? That's where it turns from Elyon to Yahweh, correct?
No, the oldest reference to Yahweh in literate, as far as writing, is the Moabite Stela, which is the oldest confirmed.
Wait. That was the Egyptian seal referring to the Shasu of Yahweh.
No, that's still debated. We don't even know if that actually is the divine name.
Do you guys happen to have any?
I'm just talking about in the... No, that's okay.
You're talking about in the chronology?
In the Old Testament. Just sticking with the Old Testament.
Do you want to... Okay, are you going with the chronology that the Old Testament gives us, or with the actual dating of the books?
The chronology that the Bible gives us.
Okay, then the earliest... Well, the earliest mention is going to be in the first chapters of Genesis. He's called Yahweh in those.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, I thought. Okay. So where did the transition come from Elyon to Yahweh? Where did that transition happen?
It was basically just a retroactive attempt to explain why Yahweh was associated with all the epithets of El. And which was actually the result of Yahweh and El being syncretized together.
But there's other parts in the Bible where Yahweh and El Elyon are interchangeably mentioned.
Right.
Okay. So there's not
like Elohim and.
We also have it. Yeah, we have instances of where he's interchangeably referenced as Elohim, or we have instances. Yeah, El Shaddai, El Elyon, El. Actually, we should be saying Ale technically. Ale.
Like kind of the male pronoun.
Let's move on.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
the reason why I was asking is, in the video, and I haven't read much of Richard Carrier's work, but in the video, like I never heard him say that it was directly a copy of something that happened in the past, but it seemed like he was saying that concepts were borrowed, but that makes sense given how religions develop over time.
Right.
Like,
well, the thing is though is that he's trying to argue though that Jesus, like in the terms of the celestial Jesus, he does directly think that that was something that was just taken over from Judaism. That's why he cites Philo as one of his examples.
Painfully.
Yeah.
And he tries, and if you listen to his presentation, he's a little bit more reasonable than his actual writing.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, it's like if you read his blog and then you watch his presentation, it's like two different people, just like HistoryNet was saying.
I would
it's like
sure read his writings because sometimes people present ideas differently in written form than they do in verbal expression. I would have to read his writings, but then there's also the interpretation of his writings, meaning that like if I read Mein Kampf, I'm going to go at that thing from a very anti-Nazi and Hitler approach. I'm probably not going to see anything positive in that book.
Yeah. And you know what? I get that, but you're also talking to someone. Myself, I was a Richard Carrier supporting mythicist. I have now read this book twice. Once as a mythicist. I read it once as a mythicist, and now I'm reading it again when I'm not a mythicist.
So you would say that the physical representation of Jesus is not a myth, but you would say that the supernatural Jesus would be a myth.
Oh, God damn it, not this again. Okay, Jim, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I said that, but like, I've heard this petty kind of thing from mythicists myself. I think Bart Ehrman was asked about this too. He said, if the supernatural bits of Jesus aren't real, then does that mean Jesus did not in fact exist? And it's like, we can be pretty certain that there was a historical guy that inspired the story. You know, there was a man who was the root of the tale. You know, I mean, do we go around and say if Vespasian didn't heal people, he didn't exist?
Yeah, Caesar Augustus.
Well,
Caesar.
I would say that the version of Jesus that's represented by most Christians did not exist because they believe in a supernatural Jesus. Now, if we're just talking about a man in Nazareth who inspired some of these writings, I would say that's very plausible.
Yeah, but see, we're not talking about whether or not he actually performed all these miracles. What we're talking about was there a historical Jesus that was the basis for the Gospels?
Yeah, but
we're not talking about the miracles. We're not talking about whether or not he died and rose from. He went and died and rose from the dead. That's why I find a lot of Carrier's arguments here to be nothing but tangents. Because we're not arguing over whether or not he performed these deeds, and we don't care about these deeds. What we care about is, did he actually exist? And I don't care how many parallels you point out. Parallels don't prove anything.
And there's
Sorry, losing my crap because I've been holding a lot of this back.
No, you're good. Think of like the movie Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, for example. Like, we know that there was an Abraham Lincoln. We can examine a lot of it, but the movie would be a mythological kind of version of what actually existed.
Yeah.
All right. Regardless of how you all see, how we all see Jesus, we have as much evidence as we would expect for a first-century Jewish preacher in the ghetto of the Roman Empire. Messiah.
What we have are 5,000 times more the amounts of evidence than we would expect from one.
Yeah.
That's what we have. We have better evidence of a historical Jesus than we have of any other first-century Jew, bar none.
Oh, yeah, there's also Theudas and the Egyptian who were mentioned in passing by Josephus.
Right. which I've seen mythicists try and actually use for examples, and yet the only person in the world that mentions them is either of them is Josephus. Not even bloody Philo mentions them, and the Egyptian would have been right there gathering, according to Josephus, like, what was it, 40,000 people?
So you believe
I think that would have been noticed.
So you believe that Moses was a real life person as well, then?
Yeah. Actually, I do. Yes, I am one of the few people that does digress from the academic majority, in that I do think that there was a historical Moses.
Not anywhere near closely. Well, hold on, Jim. The Moses that Chris Hansen is referring to is nowhere even reflective of what the Old Testament says.
He's reflective. He is in the most broad sense. He was a Yahwistic cult. In my opinion, he was a Yahwistic cult leader. Learned about Yahweh in Midian, just like which is backed up by the. If the Shazu inscription is legit talking about Yahweh, it's backed up by the Shazu inscription, which has an accurate time frame for the dating, and could place him in Midian with a historical Moses.
So, Chris, what you're saying is he wasn't an Otanist priest who wanted to fuck his mother? I mean...
and who the Israelites killed and deified him out of guilt.
Out of guilt because they wanted to fuck his mother? I mean...
I'm just thinking out loud, because at a certain point, when you separate what the main writings about an individual says they did, and you were to say that a lot of these writings aren't factual about the individual, then it would almost be speaking of two people, even though they had the same name.
And
Not really. I mean, we could. Would you make that same argument about George Washington?
Napoleon?
If there was a story of George Washington that presented things that we knew was factually dishonest, and
there
did not characterize him, then I would say
are actually
those stories would be mythical, even though
Yes.
a figure...
James, can I give you two examples? Hold on. The cutting of the cherry tree, and also several horses being shot out from under George Washington. Also, bullets penetrating his jacket, but never his skin.
Brian, you're also forgetting the George Washington that prays before battle.
Exactly.
The evangelical George Washington.
Yes, kneeling in the snow, petitioning God for the safety of his troops. Even though, if you read his letters, he is disgusted by his troops. He doesn't care about his troops.
Yeah, he was an elite.
Yeah, yes. In fact, yeah, he wrote pretty weird. I mean,
that would be...
He was an elitist.
Yes.
I don't know who said this, but that would be when history becomes myth and myth becomes legend.
And there's and there's also about Napoleon. You could take one account and somebody could write a biography about him and say that he was this inspiring, charismatic hero that brought France out of this chaotic revolution. And
then there's Alexander the Great.
Yeah, and
yes.
So could we not argue that the Jesus that's represented today would be mythical compared to the Jesus that actually lived?
No, aspects of him, yes, but there's also legitimate history in the Gospels as well.
Yeah, it's like Alexander the Great. I mean, this is a man who...
Oh, no. Alexander was actually originally a divine warrior that fought people and fought demons.
And he had long conversations with people while engaged on the battlefield.
And he also... And his cult spread throughout Persia and stuff.
Yeah.
And they ended up naming a bunch of cities after this mythical guy and his mythical horse.
70 cities at least.
Forgive me for this example, but it's because it's kind of a lame one, but I love comic books. When we look at Spider-Man based in New York City, there's probably a Peter Parker living in New York City if I look hard
because
enough.
The character is fictional. We know who invented him and why. Same with Batman. Same with Wonder Woman.
Yeah, what we're talking about is documents in history.
It's a false analogy, Jim.
Yeah. But when you go back, we talked about where we believe that Moses helped leading this cult taught and invented some of the things that would lead to be modern day Judaism. So wouldn't it be similar the same way?
No, because we know who we know that Peter Parker is an invented person.
Yeah.
Moses, we don't know if Moses was, and we certainly know that Jesus was not. That's the difference, is that it's a false analogy, because we don't know that Jesus wasn't invented. We know that Peter Parker was.
Here's a fun fact. A Superman was invented by Jewish schoolboys who based them off of Moses.
Did you guys want to continue with this video?
Yeah.
Let's continue, because we're on a tangent.
No.
Anyway.
And we're not saying this disparagingly, Jim. Just so you know, no one's making fun of you.
Yeah, we're not trying to rag on you or nothing.
No. I told Brian I'm going to be very devil's advocate on this.
Okay. Oh, okay.
If we're frustrated, Jim, it's because we've heard of this stuff a million times.
Well, no. I just I wanted to definitely play devil's advocate and come at it from the other angle, because I think sometimes that's good, because sometimes we can get in a group chatting where a lot of people agree with each other, and
right.
I can throw my shoulder out by patting myself on the back so hard.
Yeah, you don't want to turn.
Yeah, you are definitely right, because it can become an echo chamber, and I definitely get that.
Yeah,
and I thank you for also bringing up the opposition.
You're keeping us from coming all over each other in a circle jerk. Yeah.
No more than carriers, believe me.
Okay, let's go.
Well,
to resurrect her, and it was all planned for this to happen. And she's resurrected, and she ascends back up through the levels of hell, and the story proceeds from there. Now, this is another example of one of those dying and rising god cults. It was originally an agricultural cult. We have evidence that possibly this cult survived in other forms, but we don't have a lot of evidence of that. But the fact that
what?
We have evidence that it might have survived in other forms, but we don't have a lot of evidence of that. Okay, wait. Which is it, Richard? Do we have evidence of it, or do we not have much evidence of it? Can you please tell us the truth? Okay, next.
That there are so many similarities with this ancient Sumerian tale and the ascension of Isaiah is enough proof that some version of the story survived, and that whoever wrote the ascension of Isaiah is actually borrowing elements from this descent of Inanna story, this other resurrection.
So,
where would they get that material at that time in Ethiopia?
So, Jim, right here, your contention that he's not saying they actively borrowed is thrown out the window, because he just actively said that they borrowed from the ascension of from Inanna. The Christians borrowed.
I apologize, I missed that, but I'm going to go back and watch the video later too. I've got
no here. I'll rewind it for you so you can see it.
Yeah, go ahead, because I'm also apologize. I've got pro wrestling in the background.
Oh, that's fine. So here.
Evidence that possibly this cult survived in other forms, but we don't have a lot of evidence of that. But the fact that there are so many similarities with this ancient Sumerian tale and the ascension of Isaiah is enough proof that some version of the story survived, and that whoever wrote the ascension of Isaiah is actually borrowing elements from this descent of Inanna story, this other resurrection God story.
So he's literally saying that that Ascension of Isaiah borrowed from the Inanna cult, despite the fact that Sumerian was a dead language in the Middle East.
Yeah, and he should be careful. Like, you can't necessarily assume just because something's similar that they borrowed from something else.
Exactly. That's my biggest problem, is that correlation does not equal causation. But he seems to he loves drawing that there's all these parallels, therefore they must have borrowed. Like, no, parallels happen. If we've learned anything from Joseph Campbell and the Hero of a Thousand Faces, it's that people is that that there are archetypes that people without any contact with each other follow just by default. It's just a standard thing in our human psyche that we follow certain patterns. And it has no bearing on whether or not someone copied from another, especially not when we're talking about the descent of Inanna, which has no written form from, what is it? There's not a single copy of it that we have after like the 10th century BC.
So Chris, what you're saying is it's truer than true. At least that's what Kermit the Frog told me.
Well, Josh Bowen's still here. He could confirm all this.
Yeah, I would agree. You should definitely not assume that there's a connection until you can demonstrate one. If you assume just because it's similar that it has to be linked, it's definitely a fallacy.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on.
So let's get to Paul's letters. These are the earliest letters we have. And you have to remember that the 13 or so letters of Paul that are in the New Testament, only 7 of them are agreed to be authentic. The others are all forgeries.
Hey, Carrier said something that's right.
Yeah.
No, well, actually, there's debate on 2 of them.
There's debate on Galatians.
Again, he said that what he said was that we only agreed that 7 of them are from Paul. Okay, that's correct.
Just for clarity, there is no debate on Galatians except among the mythicists because they
none. I'm sorry, Robert Price. I love you. You are such a nice guy. You are such a nice guy. I love you, Robert. I actively bought your book new just so I could get, because I am actually willing to give you money. But no one but you on earth thinks that Paul didn't write Galatians or that Paul didn't exist.
But Chris,
you're like the only guy on earth.
But Chris, until we have the original autographs, we can go ahead and think that they're I'm just kidding, sorry.
Okay, but the letters that we know were written by Paul were First and Second. No, wait, Second is debated, but
Second. First Thessalonians, Philippians, First and Second Corinthians, I think it's Colossians.
No, not
Colossians.
Colossians is debated, but Philemon and
Philemon, yep.
Romans, yeah.
Romans, and there's one more. We're missing one. Galatians.
Yeah, but Colossians and Second Thessalonians are evenly divided.
Yeah, and we know for a fact he didn't write First and Second Timothy.
No.
But if anyone wants to actually read about this, actually here I have it in both forms. If you want the not so scholarly version, but really good introduction, here is Bart Ehrman's Forged.
I enjoyed
definitely
that book.
Very good book. Definitely worth reading. Whoops.
It's more scholarly than any Carrier's books put together.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And then there's also Forgery and Counter Forgery, which is the scholarly version of this, and is also absolutely excellent. Ehrman gives an absolutely brilliant arguments for his positions. So
he's a bad man in mythicist land. He's a bad man.
Poor Ehrman can't. Okay, Ehrman's a bad man in evangelical land. He's a bad man in mythicist land. He's a bad man no matter where he ends up, and I don't get it. The dude's great.
There's something he said that if you've got lunatics on both sides telling you how wrong you are, something right.
Yeah. Okay.
His big deal is
you know what? That's perfect. It's like somebody who doesn't fit in any political ideology or party. It's like, well, yeah, if you piss off everybody,
hold it, Brian. Before you go any further, I think that's a bit of a false comparison because our Ehrman's dealing with facts. Do not bring up politics. I hate centrists. Okay.
Well, no, I guess
no politics.
Over it.
Yeah, not centrist. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go back to this. Okay. Starting now.
Basically, all mainstream scholars agree that those other letters are forgeries, so we can throw them out one way or another.
Let's throw them out. Let's throw them out, guys.
Yes,
even though they're
we
complete a bunch of evidence for first century Christians were thinking. Let's throw them out.
Mein Kampf burned them.
The Cicero guy. I'm not sure we could trust his sources. They're all biased. They all say that they're written by some fucker named Cicero. So let's just throw them out and find some other source for Cicero.
Okay, Richard.
We make big bonfire. Sorry.
Okay, Richard. I'm going to tell you this story here. Once upon a time, there was a camel, and there was a sheep, and they met each other. You're the sheep. Okay.
Okay.
The camel won because the camel's bigger and the camel's smart. Sheep are dumb. Don't be sheep. Be camel.
I learned more. I just learned more from that analogy than I did. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
That was so random.
Yes, it was. It doesn't. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, you never know what you're going to get on this show.
It's got a graham cracker show.
Chris is a little drunk right now, and Chris doesn't give a fuck.
It's okay.
Well,
moving right along. I'm slightly buzzed, but I don't feel.
I am buzzed enough that I'm having trouble walking straight right now.
Well, how much have you had? I mean,
this is coming up here pretty soon. It's going to be number 5 with the vodka.
Oh.
I have not. This used to be full when I started.
How far we are?
Okay.
How far are we?
Okay.
Okay, let's go.
And
I think you got me beat.
7 that we think are authentic and talk about those. Now, in those letters, Paul says things like this in Galatians. Brothers, the gospel I preached does not come from a man. Neither did I receive it from man, nor was I taught it, but it came to me through a revelation of Jesus Christ. So notice those words. Very careful of the vocabulary he's using to describe where his gospel comes from. It comes from revelation. It doesn't come from Jesus. It doesn't come from human oral testimony. It came from direct revelation. He had a vision of Jesus. So,
okay, if anyone doesn't know, he's basically going to use this to say that Paul didn't get his information from the apostles, didn't get it from the disciples. He just got it straight from Jesus.
He was persecuting Christians.
Oh, but he lied about it. He must have lied about it.
I don't know what any of you are talking about. Paul didn't exist.
Please tell me you have that book. That would be so funny.
No, he's say what you will about Carrier. He's a smart cookie, but he's out of touch with reality, as he may be. He's not an idiot.
Well, Carrier at least admits Paul existed. Please tell me this.
And Peter.
Yeah. Well, he admits that Paul exists, but for some reason he denies the existence of the Q document. Like, what the crap? The only other person in the world I know that denies the existence of the Q document is Mark Goodacre.
Wouldn't Q work for his conspiracy theory any better?
What?
Wouldn't Q work well for his conspiracy theory?
You'd think, possibly, but... Well, not really. Actually, it would work against it because Q is just a collection of sayings. You don't collect sayings of just a random deity. We don't really have that.
Well, and even Robert Price, which I heard today, admits the Q source.
Oh yeah, notice that the actual biblical scholar, even though he's a mythicist, thinks that Q is a thing.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, the first time I ever heard of that Carrier wasn't convinced of Q was in a lecture I saw of his about how the acts are historical fiction. And in the middle of it, he goes, okay, so Q's not real. I read these books, and yeah, it's not real. Moving on.
Yeah, that's basically his thing. Okay, moving on.
So when we get to 1 Corinthians, where he says, brothers, the gospel...
Oh, 1 Corinthians, guys. 1 Corinthians.
Drink, motherfucker. I'm not
written. We know for a fact. Written by Paul.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
In defense, okay. In defense of Carrier, I have heard fundamentalist preachers say 1 and 2.
Brian, I don't have any booze. You better drink for me too. Quit trying to avoid your responsibility.
Not in defense of Carrier. It's not much of an excuse when a fundamentalist is saying 1 and 2 Corinthians, especially when he's a PhD. I need more alcohol.
1, 2 Corinthians, 1st and 2nd Corinthians. 1, 2 Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd.
I'm just going to call this trumping.
1, 2, and 3 John.
This is what we call Trumpifying. Did any of you watch his speech at Liberty University? Donald Trump's.
Yeah. 2 Corinthians.
He said 2 Corinthians. I call this. I officially call this Trumpifying. It's when you speak like Donald Trump, you act like Donald Trump. And the only difference is that you don't sound like Donald Trump.
Okay, I found his sources. Okay, so he has a slide on his lecture about X called, the slide says, "There was no Q," and in parentheses, "time to get over it." And he has 3 books: The Case Against Q by Mark Goodacre, New Light on Luke by Barbara Shellard, and Michael D. Golder's Luke, A New Paradigm.
Shellard?
I think it's New Light on Luke by someone named Barbara. Barbara.
Shellard. Okay, yeah, I found it. New light on Luke.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I found the paper that he's citing. It's a paper from when? 2002. Wow, he actually found something of this century. Wait a second.
There we go.
Say that again.
Are you kidding me? It's only 3 pages long.
Wait, what? Go back a little bit. What? Just, I think I may have missed it. I'm paying attention.
Oh wait. Okay, wait. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Just a quick.
Yeah.
Purple cover. New Light on Luke by Barbara.
Okay, here we go. I think I found it. The book. New Light on Luke. Its purpose, sources, and literary context.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Yep, same cover. Same.
It sounds like the Google version. They're notorious for cutting stuff out.
Oh, guys, look where it was published by.
No.
Sheffield Academic Press.
Oh,
Philip Davies strikes again.
Wait, is this Sheffield Phoenix or Sheffield? Is this
Sheffield Academic? But it was the same people. It was also founded by Philip Davies, and then it was shut down, and then they got Phoenix Press out of it.
Yeah, we've talked about this one. I think.
Yeah, here.
Can you screen share or?
Yeah, I'm screen sharing right now.
Well, hold on a minute. Okay, here we go.
Okay, Sheffield Academic Press was an academic imprint based at the University of Sheffield, known for publications in fields of biblical and religious studies. It was launched in the mid-1980s, co-founded by biblical scholars Philip R. Davies and David J.A. Clines. Clines is actually a really good scholar, though, just to let you guys know. It has an excellent commentary on the Book of Job. In 2003, it was merged to T&T Clark, an imprint of Continuum International Publishing Group. Editorial staff included David Orton and Stanley Porter. Sheffield Academic Press had at one point been the imprint of the Journal for the Study of the Old Testament and Journal for the Study of Historical Jesus, the Journal for the Study of Pseudepigrapha, and the Journal for the Mediterranean Archaeology, and the Journal for Pentecostal Theology. It was also the imprint for a series of studies on urban legend under the title Perspectives of Contemporary Legend. In 2004, it the university announced a new independent printing house, Sheffield Phoenix Press, which is what it ended up becoming. And what do you know? It was actually also, if I remember correctly, run by Philip Davies. Let me see. Whoops.
What I missed? I had to get some Coke.
What?
No, Coca-Cola, not the drug.
No, I don't. That's a Conservative Party guy.
Well,
I don't care about you.
Yeah, that's a disappointment.
That's what I say every time I look at a Republican. Just a disappointment.
Yeah, I agree.
Ow.
Yeah.
Myth debate, huh?
Yeah. So, okay. Anyways, yeah, Sheffield Phoenix Press has a long history of dubious problems. Okay. Back to this, though. Tangent. What were we talking about?
We may need another show for this.
Q. We're talking about Q.
Gospel I preached.
Oh, yeah. His sources are probably bunk. From a poor press, which is probably why Carrier got published in the first place. But let's go on.
Is what I also received. He's talking about the same thing. It's the same vocabulary, almost the same phrase, word for word, about his revelation. So he's talking about what was revealed to him by Jesus. And what was revealed to him was this, that according to the scriptures, Christ died for our sins, and that he was buried, and that according to the scriptures, he was raised on the third day, and that he appeared to Cephas and various other early Christian apostles, and
Cephas.
Well, if you read the Greek, it would be pronounced Cephas, no?
It can be pronounced both. Bart Ehrman actually pronounces it Cephas.
Yeah, I really don't care how it's pronounced. Well, actually, I kind of do because I like Greek. Also, I just looked it up. The other book that he cited as a reason he doesn't believe in Q, Luke, A New Paradigm by Michael D. Goulder, also published by Sheffield Academic Press in December 1st, 1989.
There's no collusion. There was no collusion.
I love how everything he cites, all those favorite things he cites, are all published by the exact same bloody press.
Oh, well, there must be an explanation for that. Come on.
Okay, moving on.
Appeared to me as well. Now, what's important here, as I'll point out in a moment, is that the appearing part only comes later. Then when we get to 1 Corinthians 11:23, we have again, I received from the Lord, same vocabulary.
Wait, 1 Corinthians, drink, motherfuckers, drink.
I'm almost out. I'm saving it for the big finale.
Wait, come on. I don't have any pros.
On the night he was handed over, the Lord took bread and so on, the whole Lord's Supper idea. What that's going to tell us, very importantly, well, let's get to that. Let's talk about the thing just before. Note that Jesus is not said to have appeared before his death. People only see him after his death. Now notice that in 1 Corinthians 15.
Does he only appear after his death? Theo, come on.
What, does he only appear what?
After his death.
Oh, no. Paul explicitly says that he had a mother and brothers and had the Last Supper and all this already.
I'll point to Acts and say about the brothers of the Lord. I'm trying to say that there's this subset of Christians called brothers of the Lord.
Oh,
well,
no.
Okay, but the case could be made that Paul never saw the physical form.
Oh yeah, he probably never did see the physical Jesus, but that has no bearing on whether or not Jesus actually existed.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that so Carrier adamantly hates it, but 1 Thessalonians 2, what is it, 16 through 18? Is that what it is, Theo?
Yeah, I'm correct. Yeah.
Talks about how Jesus was killed by the Jews. The same people persecute. In fact, he says the same people persecuting Christians.
No, but that's either an interpolation or they're cosmic Jews.
Oh yeah. The funny thing about it though is that the biggest reason why people don't like it is because it's racist, quote unquote. No, it's not. There are numerous times where Paul calls out the Jews in particular for hurting other people, unless you're going to say that they interpolated virtually every book that he wrote just so they could include hatred of Jews. I don't think so. It's like untenable. And then there's also the problem that the biggest issue is actually with the last sentence, that the wrath of God is upon them. They think that's referencing the temple. But if I think, if I remember correctly, and I think you could back me up on this, Theo, is that there's also a reference in Romans very similar to that.
Yeah.
I just have a nagging question. Why is it that all of Paul's information on Jesus always seems to be as if Paul was not located in the same area as Jesus? It's like he had never heard of him outside of direct revelation or what he heard from the other apostles.
I mean, when he said, when he claims that in the epistles, at least to me, it's pretty obvious that he's just trying to say, you know, that's pertaining to his conversion, no?
Yeah.
Well, yes, but it's like there's not even rumors. You know, he doesn't cite anything. He doesn't even cite miracles.
Actually, he references two different traditions. There's a creedal tradition in 1 Corinthians 15, and there's also one in Philemon.
Yeah, but that's in reference to the Last Supper, correct?
No, both of them are in reference to the one in 1 Corinthians is the creedal tradition about how Jesus was crucified, died, and rose again, and then appeared to Peter, to the 12, and then also to Paul, and also to James.
But what about anything before that? Miracles, feeding of the 5,000. It's like, well, no. Let me back up. That's the wrong road. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't fly either. Never mind.
Okay, so moving on or not?
Okay, do we want to continue?
Yeah, let's plow through this.
You want to continue, Brian?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Verses 1 to 8. There's no mention of Jesus being seen or known before his death. So there's no mention of disciples going on a mission with him. There's no mention of a ministry in Galilee. And in fact, the only sources he has are the scriptures for that stuff. The first time there's any mention of Jesus appearing to anyone, of anyone ever seeing Jesus, is the risen Jesus, the revelatory Jesus, the celestial Jesus, not...
Paul said he preached to Jews.
They were space Jews.
Jews in space.
Oh yeah, you saw the end of the trailer of History of the World Part 1.
Yep.
Jews in space, man. Jews in space. Listen.
That movie was funny.
So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I mean, again, Paul mentioned...
They were all space Jews conceived of using the cosmic sperm bank and cosmic in vitro fertilization.
Didn't you get the memo? And in 2,000 years, nobody picked up on this until Carrier came along.
But these are terms that...
Or until... yeah.
Oh, my God.
Doesn't matter, man. It's cosmic in vitro fertilization from a cosmic sperm bank that gave us a bunch of cosmic Jews that crucified him in a cosmic realm so that he could be cosmically buried in a cosmic tomb and rise from a cosmic grave so that he could cosmically save us.
I don't have any booze to be...
Cosmic. Period.
Sperm.
Okay, here we go.
The earthly Jesus. Oops. Let's try
You know what? Okay, the Carrier saying, whoops. That's what you should have said after writing that book.
That's what he should... I watch it be what he said when he read your article.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, no. What he's going to say is Chris Hansen's a liar, a hack,
Tinfoil
a crank.
hat conspiracy nut.
uneducated that watch, he'll attack the education.
And
Oh, yeah.
And then the Chris will walk in and go, "Could you have a seat right there? What are you doing to history?"
That again.
Okay.
And when he says according to the scriptures, he uses a particular form of the Greek that normally is how you cite sources. It could mean, for example, what the way Christians normally interpret it is, these things happened and they happened in fulfillment of the scriptures. That's usually the way that you hear it interpreted. But the phrase normally and usually and most commonly means that this is his source, that it means according to the scriptures, as in according to Josephus or according to Isaiah or whatever the case may be, that these things happen. So what it looks like Paul's that on the...
Okay, I want to just find where he gets this. So 1 Corinthians, and it is 15. Wait a second, it's the cradle tradition.
1 Corinthians 15, what?
1 through 8. It's the bloody cradle tradition.
Okay, let me see this shit. Let's see. Noris do de hymin atel poito evangelion ho angelios homen hymin hokai parbela tapetento hoke parella ete en hokai estekate di hokai sos des te tini logo.
That sounds Native American. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it sounds good. It sounds good.
He's quoting from the Cherokee version.
Yes, I was gonna say it. Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you?
Okay, Okay, a little less racism on the channel, please.
I'm half Native. I'm part Native American, damn it. I'm a mestizo.
We love
I'm part Native American also, and I deem that not racist.
We love our feathered breath.
I'm part Native American too, but I can already foresee the demonetization of this episode, and I'm not even monetized yet.
I'm still upset. I'm still upset at what happened at the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah. So I'm yeah. Anyway, what was the
basically these Black Lives Matters activists?
I'm not. What is he quoting from? So he says, "Brothers, the gospel I preach, ... is what I also received, that according to the scriptures." I think his citation is wrong.
Yeah, because I'm not. Let's see. According to the scriptures. Let's see. Brothers, the gospel that I proclaim. Receive, stand, proclaim, hold fast and listen. Yeah, I'm not getting the gist of what he's talking about.
I'm not even getting that. I'm not even getting that sentence.
Yeah, and which words did he say were supposed to be citations?
The whole thing. Brothers, the gospel I received, ... is what I also received, that according to the scriptures, Christ died for our sins, and that he was buried, and that according to the scriptures, he was raised on the third day, and that he appeared to Cephas. Okay, so he's...
Ei tätä olisi tuoltakaan. Yeah, it's just, according to the third, thereafter he appeared to more 500 brothers. Okay, so I think I can kind of get the gist of what he means by citation according to the scriptures. Katatas karpas. But like, I don't get his conclusion.
Where does he get the scriptures part from?
It's verse 4. He was buried and then raised the day third according to the scriptures. Yeah. And he was raised on the third day according to the scriptures. Kai.
Well, let's just look at where else kata is used.
Let's see. Kata.
So Matthew 2:6, according to the time, was some. It's used as against you. Rush down to the steep bank. It means down to you according to your faith.
Kata is it's just that. It's just about, pertaining to, according to. People use it all the time in Greek. I mean, that's the name of a lot of.
Yeah, and it looks like it was just used in like numerous different contexts. So I don't know how he's getting this specifically.
Yeah. So. And that's a big claim to make, that this is the particular word you use for citations. I mean, like, they used a lot of other words. The fact that you would take this word particularly in context, I think, I can kind of get the context in the sense of, they're talking about, raised on the third day according to some earlier gospel or something like this. It says according to the scriptures. Or it could mean like according to the Tanakh,
Right.
But that aside, honestly, like, yeah. My head hurts.
Hang in there.
I don't have booze. Fuck you. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm sober.
Okay.
I didn't mean to say that.
No. All the overtime that I had kind of gave me a little leeway spending wise. That's the only reason I was able to get the selection that I have.
Okay, it looks like Brack's going to actually be able to join us here for a few more minutes.
Nice.
Oh,
Okay.
who?
Brack.
Oh, yeah. Bring him on in.
Yeah, join on in. You still have the link. I hope. I think it still works. So. Okay.
I'll add him right in.
He says he has some things to say about the birth of the Lord.
Yeah. So what I'm getting the gist out of this is because he's trying to say that this is all coming not from people he met, but from revelation, from scripture. Yep. Yeah, and then the following verse, like, look, it does, from the context of what I'm getting, especially since we're talking about a time where there were probably no gospels, because, he's probably talking about the Tanakh here. Yeah.
Did he join us yet?
No.
Yeah, you're still in, Brock. Come on in. Oh, please wait. Does anybody have his email? No.
Here,
it's
just a
already
sec. Let me. Hey, Brock. I'm going to be sending it to you here. Just a sec.
I'll send it to him.
Well, he's in the chat of the call. All he has to do is.
I have him on Discord.
Okay. Not sure why it's giving him a hard time.
So yeah, I feel like in context, this looks like he's just trying to make up some argument that sounds sophisticated, like, oh, he's referring to a citation, therefore it has nothing to do with people he met, therefore he made it up. It's almost edging towards that conspiracy that Paul invented Christianity.
Well, he's trying to get at that he basically invented or came up with a lot of his conceptions about Jesus just directly from the Old Testament, not from other Christians.
And it's like you could even meet Jews that completely disagree with that.
Oh yeah.
You would think Jews would have every reason in the world to erase Jesus from history.
You'd think. Okay, I sent Brack. Hey, there you are! Yay! He's here. Brack, save me!
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm back.
Save me! I'm getting drunk.
Save me! I'm sober.
Wait.
I'm having trouble walking right now, so.
Well, I see is no longer bedridden, so that's progress, I guess.
I can walk in a straight line. That's my problem.
Okay, so here we go. More Paul.
That on the night he was handed over, the Lord took bread and so on, the whole Lord's Supper idea. What that's going to tell us, very importantly, let's get to that. Let's talk about the thing just before. Note that Jesus is not said to have appeared before his death. People only see him after his death. Now notice that in 1 Corinthians 15, verses 1-8, there's no mention of Jesus being seen or known before his death. So there's no mention of disciples going on a mission with him. There's no mention of a ministry in Galilee. And in fact, the only sources he has appear to be the scriptures for that stuff. The first time there's any mention of Jesus appearing to anyone, of anyone ever seeing Jesus, is the risen Jesus, the revelatory Jesus, the celestial Jesus, not the earthly Jesus.
You heard it here first, guys. So I have another story for you, Carrier.
Here we go.
This is
Pay
about
attention, class.
So here, let me focus so everyone can see this amazing story that I'm going to tell. This is directly from the Bible. I can guarantee it. So in First Dumbass.
Well,
this is the camel of ale, and this is, what the fuck is this? Whatever this is, if this is what it is. It is the this of Baal. Once upon a time, there was a this of Baal, and his name was Richard. They called it Dick for short.
You know, a Dick Carrier.
And
well,
one day it walked up and it found a lot of grass and it started eating the grass. And then it decided that the grass didn't exist. And then the camel was like, and then a camel came up and the camel was like, hey guys, what the fuck? And then the camel was like,
So about Jesus not being for that, let me just read Romans 15:8. For I tell you that Christ has become a servant of the Jews on behalf of God's truth, so that the promises made to the patriarchs might be confirmed.
Can you read that verse one more time?
For I tell you that Christ has become a servant of the Jews on behalf of God's truth, so that the promises made to the patriarchs might be confirmed.
Okay.
They're cosmic Jews, and that's a cosmic Jesus. We already went over this. It's cosmic. Right, Brack? You can back this up, right? It's all cosmic. Look, I've got a weird, like, antelope bloody thing here. It told me I hallucinated it, therefore it's scripture, right? I don't know.
With you so far.
Let me just 1 Corinthians 11:23. For I received from the Lord what I also passed on to you, the Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread.
It was space bread, and they drank Tang.
Symbolic. Yes, symbolic.
Every time I have bread, it's always space bread. I buy it specifically from Space Mart. It's like Walmart, but
do you get blue milk?
It's like Walmart, but but the hillbillies have spacesuits on.
And Trump Space Force, you know.
Yeah.
Did you get blue milk with that?
No, the milk's green. It took a while for them to ship it up there.
But when Galatians 4:4, but when the set time had fully come, God sent his son, born of a woman, born under the law.
That's a space law and a space woman.
That's one of the things that gets me with all of this is just how much Carrier is grasping for straws, where he's misusing the Bible. He's definitely misusing rabbinic tradition, Jewish tradition, in order, to support this idea. I mean, I just, you have to wonder, he tries to state that he's unbiased and he approached this without any bias. And I just really I'm very skeptical of that. I find it very hard.
Brack, he was funded by people who wanted him to study about mythicism. There's no bias in that.
Yeah, I mean, I need to clarify what I had said earlier, just so it's not misconstrued. Because he asked his fans what did they want him to do the study on, and they all, according to him, said mythicism. So theoretically, some of those could have been non-mythers who wanted him to do it. So I just wanted to clarify that, I wasn't stating or meant to state that everyone that funded them was a mythicist, just that they all wanted him to do the mythicist topic. But yeah, I mean, the most simplest thing is that there is some Jew roaming around the Galilean countryside, making trouble, and he gets executed by the Romans, and his followers create these legends surrounding him. That's the most easiest thing, and instead of all this other nonsense. I mean,
it's like
it's really easy. I can't see how that can be an unbiased approach. I just cannot see that.
I mean, the story was basically this.
Not the animal crackers again. Go ahead. I enjoy animal cracker story time. Go ahead.
You have this goat.
Oh, you identified it. Very good. Yes, a goat.
Yes, this goat's Rome.
Okay. And
this badger thing, blob with legs, that's Jesus.
Okay, we'll flip it around because beavers are trafe, so they could be the Romans, and make Jesus the goat, because goats are kosher. Yeah.
Okay. Here then. We'll get a kitty cat because the kitty cat goes after the goat here.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
But yeah, I think the most damning thing is it talks about him being betrayed when he took bread. That's his betrayal in the Last Supper. Ego God. Parele la bon apo
tu. It was space bread, man.
Kuriu hokai paradoka humin koti ho kurios Jesus ente nukti he paradieto elaben arton.
Also, can we just talk about the fact that there's that ancient Romans really didn't think that there was that the deities were off residing in space or anything. I don't know of any culture that actually thought that. Whoops.
Did they even know what outer?
No, they didn't even know what outer space was. But I mean, if I recall correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but last I recalled, all the Greek gods and the Roman gods sat on mountains on Earth.
Olympus.
And last I recall, all the gods in ancient Canaanite religion sat on mountains.
And also
on Earth.
Gods in just about every religion sat on mountains.
And just
on Earth.
Just look at ancient cosmology too. They believed in celestial spheres. Those weren't space. They didn't even know what that was. As far as they were concerned, they were realms leading up to the Empyrean, which is the ethereal fire thing up there where greater divinities lived.
Oh, dude, that is an awesome point. Theo, let me ask you this, because since you're more familiar with Timaeus than what I am. When it talks about the spheres, is there any indication there's gaps of any time type in between the spheres? Because from what I remember, from what I read, they were kind of they're right up against each other.
They pretty much were, in a sense, because you have to remember that they thought that they were just levels up in the sky. Because in Timaeus, they want to describe, because remember, like I said, Plato was off by a lot, but he was very influential. So most people, when they thought of the cosmos, they thought of his Timaeus. And not just him, but also Aristotle's view of the celestial spheres. He was the one that really built on that. The Timaeus deals more with the levels of existence, the forms and so on.
Yeah.
But when it comes to just the ancient Aristotelian and Platonic view, there wasn't really gaps between there. I mean, also when you get into later, even the medieval era, you just have to read the Paradiso by Dante Alighieri. His view of the cosmos was the medieval view, and it was Aristotelian, and it was the view of the Romans too, of these spheres that you go up into the heavens, up to the Empyrean, which Christians eventually got to believe was where God sat. And Yeah, there's no indication that there are gaps, that there's a space. If anything, they believe that the stars themselves were on one of those spheres, the firmament.
Yeah.
That's not outer space. If anything, the moon was one of these spheres. So, what did this crucifixion stuff happen like in the firmament?
Well, that's what that is what he says.
Yeah,
well, I was thinking like earlier in the video where he was indicating something happening. I think he said between Mars and Venus.
That's the other problem with his with the way he talks is that he uses these terms like outer space, space underneath the moon. It's like there's a whole context of cosmology that goes into how these people thought about their universe, which has nothing to do with the way we think about ours. They didn't think that outer space was a void of nothing.
But Theo, outer space.
Beneath the surface of the moon.
I don't have alcohol, you son of a bitch.
Like, think of outer space like this thing right here. Okay, I'm done with animal crackers for now. I'm drunk, but I'm not. But even I know that the joke's getting old now.
How long is it? How long do we got left?
Oh, if we skip ahead, because this is just going to be really stupid and boring. Although, actually, Brock wanted to talk about the Brother of the Lord thing. So let's find out where the Brother of the Lord thing is.
Yeah, no need to skip. If we don't get to it tonight, that's fine. I mean, part 2, we can talk about it, that's fine. It's just like earlier, you guys were talking about a little bit while I was still getting stuff done. I had it on in the background.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's that Brother of the Lord thing. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's just go ahead. Full speed. Let's listen to Andy Dick in a wig.
Let's try that again. And when he says according to the scriptures, he uses a particular form of the Greek that normally is how you cite sources. It could mean, for example, what the way Christians normally interpret it is, these things happened and they happened in fulfillment of the scriptures. That's usually the way that you hear it interpreted. But the phrase normally and usually and most commonly means that this is his source, that it means according to the scriptures, as in according to Josephus or according to Isaiah or whatever the case may be, that these things happen. So what it looks like Paul is actually doing here is he's saying that we learn about Christ's death and that he was buried and that was raised on the third day. We learn about those things not from anyone having seen it, but from the fact that they're written in the scriptures. The scriptures tell us that these things happened. And it would have been the revelation of Jesus that would have explained this to him. So when we get to Paul talking about the Lord's Supper, and this is the only actual kind of narrative that Paul ever references that have anything of a story about Jesus, he says he received it from the Lord. That means that Paul, we set this exact same vocabulary. Once again, it means Paul hallucinated the Last Supper. That means he received teaching from the dead Jesus, and he's even quoting
hallucinations, guys. Here we hear, you know what? You know what? Let's drink to that. Let's drink to the hallucinations of Paul.
Hallucinated the Last Supper.
Oh,
drink again, you son of a bitch! I don't have booze. You're not gonna walk tonight.
I'm gonna walk because I have no alcohol.
Well, you know what? Get more. I don't want to be the only one drinking it. Brian, drink more alcohol. Where are you?
I can't afford it. I have a girlfriend.
Next week I'll have money. I'll have booze. I'll get drunk for you, Chris. Okay? And we'll
better
go over Freud.
You better, because you see how little alcohol. You see how much this was a full bottle when I started tonight, and I have gone through half of my vodka over this.
I'll go through a lot of booze next time when we go over Daddy. Okay, I mean,
holy shit! This is like this is 35% alcohol by volume. This is 70 proof. God damn!
I can like see your. You look drunk.
This is like 5 or 6, maybe 7.
So what is that a mix of? Vodka and what?
Vodka and God,
I can't even read.
Canada Dry cranberry ginger ale.
Oh, that sounds good.
I was seeing 2 of them. I have crumbs on my laptop now. Animal Cracker story time. Just to let you know, everyone, it makes a mess.
Yeah, I thought average 21-year-olds just had cum stains on it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, bro.
It's okay. I'm almost 22, so.
I'm almost 23. I'm gonna die.
Okay.
South of 40, north of 20.
32?
Somewhere around there.
His age is massage therapist.
I'm a lot older than I look.
Okay.
Things that Jesus said on this occasion. And it's important to note that when he tells the story of the Lord's Supper, there are no disciples present. In fact, it doesn't appear that Jesus is talking to disciples. It appears that Jesus is talking basically to Paul or to future Christians when he engages in the Lord's Supper. There's no reference to Judas in particular. You'll see certain Bibles will translate the delivered, or when the night that he was handed over, they'll translate it as the night he was betrayed, because the word is the same. But in fact, it's the word handed over. And when Paul uses that word throughout the Gospels, he means when God himself handed Jesus over, or when Jesus handed himself over.
Okay, what word did...
Basically delivering Jesus to be sacrificed. There's no mention there.
Not cooperate. Cooperate with me, senpai. Okay, let's see what word he uses. What passage is that?
I see. It was 1 Corinthians 20. I think. Corinthians 23. Yep, that's it. The one where he says he was betrayed. According to the NIV, they translated it as betrayed. Let's see. No.
Let's look at what the Greek says here.
I read this fucking thing in Greek already. Let me see. Betrayed. He was betrayed.
Paradidato. There's only one occurrence of it in the entire Bible.
Paradidato.
Oh wait, it looks like there's other. Looks like there's other references to it in other forms. I hate using Strong's, but Strong's is such a piece of crap. But at the same time, it's not a piece of crap. It's actually pretty useful. But for all you out there, if you think that you know that you don't need to learn the languages just because you have a Strong's Concordance, please go and remove yourself from the gene pool.
Yeah, other translations like the hell is this translation? There's somewhere it says delivered to or betrayed, you know?
Or handed over. Yeah.
But it's all the same. In the Gospels, they talk about his betrayal as him being handed over.
Yeah.
So the fact that, you know, in the epistles it mentions that too doesn't really make a difference.
No, it doesn't.
We can tell about a betrayal by Judas, for example. So it appears to be some sort of event in outer space that Paul learned about through Revelation.
Outer space.
Outer space. We drink for the Lord Carrier.
Oh my God.
I have no booze.
The reincarnation Caligula Caesar himself.
Well, you know what? Okay, when you don't have booze, you take a Sharpie pen and you sniff it. I can't smell it.
Okay, I got one right here. Let me see. Oh, oh, that was horrible.
I know, it's just like drinking vodka.
No, at least vodka goes down the right hole. That was a horrible hole to go down. Oh, that's what she said.
I was just about to say that too. Okay. At least I think we're killing Theo here.
You're next, motherfucker.
Throughout Paul's letters, we find the same pattern. Scripture and revelation are the only sources of information that Paul ever mentions anyone having. He never refers to oral testimony. He never refers to anyone, any information he has, he never refers to.
Yeah, he doesn't refer to oral testimony like when he quotes that creedal tradition or when he...
What he's doing is taking Paul at face value, not considering the fact that there's a context to what the hell he's saying. Like, for example, the fact that he was persecuting Christians, the fact that it was probably the first place he heard about Christianity, the fact that after he converted, he would have heard more from them.
No, none of that matters because space.
Jews in space.
Imagine this animal cracker as space.
Why did I do that again? Oh.
What, you just sniffed the pen again?
I need food.
Okay, there's crackpots, then there's carrier.
And then there's Theo with a pen.
Sharpie.
Okay, let's go.
An eyewitness having told him, or someone passing on to him from an eyewitness. That never occurs. The only time he ever references sources of information, his sources of information are always scripture or personal private revelation. And the Jesus he knows and refers to and speaks to is always in outer space. It's always a cosmic Jesus. There's never an occasion where we can clearly...
Outer space.
Oh, wait, okay, just before... Yeah, outer space. We drink! Brian, where the fuck are you?
Outer space. It's like he doesn't know that there's a context of, like, you know, their
Brian has abandoned us. Brian?
He went to outer space.
Brad.
Okay.
Brad.
Also,
Theo, you got to remember, man. I mean, the Romans, they loved doing low Earth orbit crucifixions, man. It was all the rage in the first century. I mean,
I know.
You got to remember that.
Those damn Christians prevented Romans from reaching industrial age so we can go to that moon where Jesus was crucified.
You know, every single time I go to outer space, I just look at all those beautiful crosses with rotting corpses on them. They've been there for like 2,000 years. It's an amazing sight.
Chris,
They've all been bleached white by the sun. It's great.
Chris,
And
Chris,
all that pearly white sperm.
Chris, I think your pot was laced.
I don't know what you're talking about. My pot's not laced. I don't do pot. I do LSD. Now, my LSD might have been laced. But I don't care. An extra lacing in the LSD, you know, that just makes the trip better, right? Mojam says outer space just means outside of Earth's atmosphere, which I think is accurate to describe where he says they are referring to. No, outer space refers to the vacuum of space, wherein space can be bendy, wibbly, wobbly, or it can be timey-wimey, foldy.
And in the ancient world, they didn't really have a concept of the atmosphere because they didn't know what the fuck it was.
Carrier, as Jonah Epstein, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. I'm drunk. Carrier distinctly said he thinks that Paul and early Christians thought the crucifixion happened just under the moon. His words. Yes, is what he said. And also something about Satan. I can't remember right now. At this point, we're just going along and hoping that I can maintain sanity long enough to get through the video.
They identify Paul talking about a Jesus on earth. And he never connects him to human history. He never says, for example, that Jesus was crucified by Pontius Pilate. There's at no point in Paul's letters does he clearly connect Jesus to history in that fashion.
Other than saying he's a Jew, he was born of a woman, he was killed by the same Christians that killed the Jews, but it happened in space! That's accurate, right, Brack? It all happened in space? That's what Jews believed, right?
Exactly. It was all the rage. You know, the Jews in the first century, I mean, they love their cosmic sperm banks.
So right here in Philo.
Exactly, because everyone loved Philo. It was on every Jew's bookcase, you know, during that time period.
This is like Ben Shapiro level. Oh, ancient Jews were all literate, even the men and women, 100% literacy rates. That's what this feels like.
No. That's insulting to Ben Shapiro.
He's a cunt.
Oh, come on! Don't
just. Wait. Mojam says yes, and not by the Romans. He says Satan did it. So your argument is that it's ridiculous for the Romans to do it in space is irrelevant? Question mark? Actually, it is relevant because crucifixion was a Roman execution method.
So just
I don't know. I don't know why Satan would be doing that. Satan was if we're going to talk about anything, Satan is a figure from Old Testament, well, from the Tanakh. If anything, he's Jewish. He would have been using a Jewish execution method. So why didn't he stone the motherfucker to death?
Or even more, to add upon that, if someone was going to create the type of mythology that Carrier's trying to purport, for one, why would the Jews inventing this story choose crucifixion for the death method? If they're trying to envision Jesus as being a sacrifice, he would have been killed in the temple, not on a stake with the Romans. He would be executed by a priest, not by Roman soldiers. So if they were trying to make these parallels and connecting Jesus with, the sacrificial system and the temple system and all that, why would they use heathens and heathen methods to perform a sacrifice as opposed to atone for the sins of all the Jews? That makes no sense. If they were inventing something like that from whole cloth, they would have done that. So the fact that you do have a crucifixion and they're trying to use the crucifixion to explain this idea, which would be a lot easier if it would have been a high priest in the sky, on an altar in the sky, as opposed to, demons, if all people would be, doing the sacrifice offering be demons. I mean, it just makes no sense whatsoever. If they were going to create a story from whole cloth like Carrier's proclaiming, it would be much more tidier. It would make a lot more sense in that regard. It's not what we actually have recorded in the texts.
And it'd be way more Jewish.
Yeah.
Not Roman.
Exactly. Especially the earlier renditions of it. Over time, you're going to have, adaptations and what have you. But from the Genesis point, it would be completely Jewish, without a doubt.
Mojam says, no worries. Yeah, I just watched a couple Carrier videos, and I must admit he almost has me convinced that his view is accurate. I'll rewatch when this video is done, as would be good to hear the arguments against. If you want,
unless you have anti-Christian bias, I can't see how you would be convinced.
I can see it. No, I can see it. I can. Carrier sounds convincing. He looks convincing and sounds convincing.
Yep.
If you look at this book and you just look at it at face value, it is cited. He has citation after citation to no end. The thing is an endless stream of citations. But if you go back and watch the rest of this video, Mojam, you know what you will find is that a lot of his citations, if you follow them, they don't add up. Citations that you do follow are nonsensical. Yep. Why is it that in his peer review book, he's referencing a bloody encyclopedia that it gets information wrong? It has typos. It doesn't even cite the information correctly. Like that is or when he cites like right here on page 56, when he cites Plutarch, he misrepresents Plutarch completely. I have a paper on this on my academia.edu page. You can just look me up on there, Christopher Hansen. I've got 2 papers going against 2 of the dying and rising gods that he uses.
So Moxus and Romulus.
Yeah, Moxus and Romulus, and that's the one that we went over in particularly a lot here. His
sources are dated.
Not only are his sources dated, but when he uses the primary sources, they don't actually support what he's saying. What he does is he hopes that you just don't follow them.
And he knows his gullible readers won't follow them.
Yeah. I get how convincing that Carrier seems. Trust me. I used to be a mythicist. I was on that spectrum. I was completely in support of Carrier. And if you don't believe me, ask people like Tim Chafee of Answers in Genesis and people like that. I railed against them almost every single day for an entire year when I was in support of this. And you know, Tim, if by some chance you ever watch this, I am sorry for the way I treated you and the way I acted. But it was immature, completely irresponsible, and nonsensical. But Carrier seems convincing. I get it. But when you look at the actual scholarship, he's just simply not.
Hey, can I screen share something really quick?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Here, let me focus on you.
Mostly manages to convince those who want to be convinced.
Yeah, I agree. It's an example of, again, atheists like myself, you know, because I was almost a mythicist myself. Is we tend to think that we're immune to dogmatism.
Okay, we're screen sharing, so.
Okay, so look at element number 18. So someone had posted this online on a forum that was on a while back, and it really irked me on many levels, and it kind of shows, you know, what you guys are talking about here, where it says Judaism was built on top of two fundamental annual rituals, the Passover and the Atonement. Okay. Judaism is not built on top of these two holidays. Judaism is built upon the Torah that was given at Mount Sinai. There are more festivals than just these two, and interestingly, the three festivals that Jews were commanded to go to Jerusalem when the temple existed for a pilgrimage were Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacles. They were not required to be there on site for the Day of Atonement. So to state that Judaism was built on these two fundamental rituals, annual rituals, no, it's not. And people who don't know better, like you're saying, they read this, it sounds convincing. It's like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense.
And this is
but it's not true. And if you don't want to believe some random Jew online, ask your friendly neighborhood Jew, hey, is your religion based on these two holidays? And they'll look at you like you're nuts. It's like, no, we have Shabbos, we have Kasher. I mean, there's a lot that Jews do besides just Passover and Yom Kippur.
Yeah,
and if you don't believe him, you can go look up Lewis Black. Lewis Black says it right there, plain as day. He says, if you have any problem, there are Jews who walk among you, and they will be happy to interpret for you the Old Testament and all this,
and Brett,
as long as the price is right.
Brett. Before I get to my point, shekel for the good goy. Anyways, that's Carrier's app too, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, it was from his. Someone did a screenshot of the app and posted it on this forum that I used to be on. And when I read that, I was like, oh, you're freaking kidding me. So I responded to it, and I actually got into debate with someone. I'm not going to say any names or anything like this. But if you're watching, you know who you are. They quoted a Jesuit saying, and where it's like, give us your child up to the age of 7, we'll give you the man, or something like that. I don't remember the exact quote. And they're trying to say this is a Jewish teaching. I'm like, no, this was a Jesuit teaching. And they actually said, Jew, Jesuit, what's the difference?
One's Catholic, one is not. But yeah.
So,
yeah, that's the thing. This stuff
it's frustrating.
Oh, Chris got his chair.
What was that, bro?
I was like, something was so stupid, Chris had to get out of his chair.
Did they literally say, Jew, Jesuit, what's the difference?
Yes. They're literally asking what's the difference between a Jesuit and a Jew. Yes. And if they were truly ignorant of that, that's fine. I have no problems with people being ignorant. I have no problem with that. I have a problem when people are arrogant with their ignorance. You know, that's when I start to take issue. Yeah. So if they truly didn't know the difference between the two because they sound the same, I completely get that. you know, and I'm fine. But when I was answering the person, the weirdness, for the lack of a better word, you know, started to show itself even more. But yeah.
He meant in a condescending tone.
I want to die.
What was that, bro?
You said it in a condescending tone, though.
I did.
Jews, Jesuits. What's the difference?
Oh yeah.
I want to die now.
Don't worry. I'll take you up to outer space and resurrect you on the moon.
I'm okay with that.
Cosmic crucifixion.
I'm okay with the cosmic resurrection. Sheol is fine with me. You know, the only thing I don't ask is if I die, don't put me in the same room as Carrier or Philip Davies. I'm okay with any other room. I'm okay with Andy Dick. I'll take a room with Bill Cosby.
Will Smith.
Okay, let's continue. Ouch, my head hurts. I should. Obviously, the drinking's wearing off.
Now, there are passages that challenge this theory. I'll address the most significant.
Once again, his choice in water bottles is good. Aquafina, excellent choice.
I was going to say, I'm going to head off, guys.
Okay.
Has it gotten too much for you, bro?
No, remember that beeping?
Yeah.
Turns out it was a gas leak.
Oh, dude.
So I'll talk to you guys later. Be safe, okay?
Yeah, be careful, bro.
Yeah. Let's be careful, man.
Yeah. Have a good night.
You too, man.
Yeah. It was probably a gas leak, and now he's gonna hallucinate Jesus. Just to explain it to you, all you people that don't know what a gas leak is. So,
Animal Cracker Theater.
This is the gas leak. This is Theo. Actually, I need to flip him. This is what gas leaks do to Theo. Continuing on.
Significant ones. There are a lot of minor ones that are easy to dismiss, but these are the big ones, the ones you might hear about most often. That Lord's Supper passage, just say, well, he talks about the Lord's Supper, so that must have happened. That must be historical. But as we saw, Paul himself says he received it from the Lord, just like he says he received the gospel itself. So he received that information by revelation. So we can't actually tie that to a historical event that was actually witnessed by anyone on earth. And there's a passage where it says Jesus was crucified by the rulers of this age. Now, actually, the phrase "rulers of this age" in the Greek is a common term for demons. Actually, so there's actually there's a lot of times Paul and other writers use that phrase or similar phrases to refer not to earthly powers, not to the Romans, not to the Jews.
Okay, wait. What passage is that again?
Human history. He never says, for example, most often, that Lord's Supper passage. Just say, well, he talks about the Lord's Supper, so that must have happened. That must be historical. But as we saw, Paul himself says he received it from the Lord, just like he says he received the gospel itself. So he received that information by revelation. So we can't actually tie that to a historical event that was actually witnessed by anyone on earth. And there's a passage where it says Jesus was crucified by the rulers of the...
Okay, 1 Corinthians... if I can spell, that would be nice. 6. Text analysis, so I can see the Greek. Whoops. If I could spell analysis, that would also be nice. What is the Greek of this? Not in here. The rulers of this age are Archonton. So he says it's commonly used to refer to demons. It's used here to refer to the Pharisees. Used again in John to refer to the Pharisees. Again, even the of the rulers believed. So again, human people. Where again is where is he getting this? I don't get him.
I think you're in the wrong area. It says 1 Corinthians 11:23.
No, that's for the Lord's Supper.
Oh, you're going to the other one. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, I'm doing the rulers of this age.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah.
This age. Now, actually, the phrase "rulers of this age" in the Greek is a common term for demons. Actually, so there's actually there's a lot of times Paul and other writers.
It's not a term; it's just a whole phrase, but the specific term "ruler" that's used is used to refer to the Pharisees. Or the Pharisees are space demons, guys. He says, click on occurrences. 37 occurrences. To them, a synagogue official. Okay, it's used to refer to an official, a ruler. Okay, so here we go. Out of the demons by the ruler of the demons. We have two references to demons. Ruler of the Gentiles, ruler of the demons, an official of the synagogue, ruler of the demons. The magistrate, the leaders of the Pharisees, a ruler questioned him. So again, human ruler, chief priests and the rulers, and even the rulers and our rulers, and a ruler of the Jews named Nicodemus. Yeah, it looks like actually most of the times that it's used to refer to humans. So, yep, his basis is barely any for this at all.
Use that phrase or similar phrases to refer not to earthly powers, not to the Romans, not to the Jews, but in fact to the cosmic powers, to the forces of Satan.
Sure.
And notably in this passage in 1 Corinthians 2, where he talks about Jesus Christ being crucified by the rulers of this age, his specific point there is that they killed him, but they wouldn't have killed them if they knew it would bring the world salvation. And thus his identity was concealed from them so that they would kill him, not knowing that this would end death and end their power and so on.
So, okay. I'm thinking we're going to leave it here and do part 2. Mostly because I'm having trouble understanding what he's saying now.
Yeah, we've been almost at this for 3 hours. How far are we in the vid, by the way?
We are 37 minutes into an hour.
So we're 2/3 of the way there.
About, yeah.
Almost. Yeah,
Almost.
part 2.
Yeah, you guys been streaming for almost 4 hours now.
Yeah, so we're going to leave it here, I think. And then we'll do a part 2, try and get everyone back. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
How many carrier followers, how much of them do you think have high attention spans?
Given that they watch and listen to Carrier, not high. Probably given that they don't check footnotes either, definitely not that high. I don't particularly care though, because Carrier followers are not going to ever care about this video or listen to what we say anyways. So,
yeah,
I am more optimistic.
I'm a misanthrope.
I wish I shared your optimism.
As coming from the Carrier camp, I can say they don't often care about what the other side says as much as they can just insult them.
Yeah. Explain to us why you found him appealing.
Because he looked official, sounded official, had a lot of citations, and everything looked cool. And because I had no idea that Sheffield Academic or Sheffield Phoenix Press was a complete cahoot.
They sure make a big deal out of that peer review. You ever heard about anybody brag so much about having a peer review work and a PhD in your life?
No.
I can't think of any.
I think the only time that would have ever been that people ever would have bragged more was when peer review actually first became a thing.
Like usually whenever I hear something being singled out as being peer reviewed is when a person's referencing a bunch of different information sources. And if they're not all peer reviewed, they will distinguish, oh, here's this, this peer review, article talking about this topic to kind of, give it more clout, but it's usually within that context of other sources being given that are not peer review. But just, out of nowhere, out of context saying, oh, this is peer review.
And they're saying this.
Yeah, that does seem odd, but I don't know. Maybe
they're
it's
saying that this is not only the first peer-reviewed book on Jesus in decades, but there's no peer-reviewed book confirming his historicity of Jesus. Like, how many peer-reviewed books can you name me that confirm the round Earth?
Off the none.
Yeah,
none
exactly.
On the round. Okay, on the round Earth, numerous. Actually, there's a few that I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but I know of one, and I'm just trying to recall the name. But I mean, when it comes to actually the historicity of Jesus, I know of several academic published books on the historical Jesus.
Yeah.
There's some by Van Voorst, James Dunn. Actually, you know what? I'll just look through my list here, because on my Amazon here, right, in this list, you'll notice I have some guitar stuff here. But okay. Yes, this is what my save for later always looks like. Just book after book of scholarship. Oh, look, Job. Hey, look, more Job. Okay. And then a lot of mythicism. I plan on eventually getting all these and just reading through them just for the lulz. But where's the historical Jesus stuff? Okay, here we go. We have Craig S. Kinnear's The Historical Jesus of the Gospels. Jesus as a figure in history, how modern historians view the man of Galilee, Mark Allen Powell. We have Fabricating Jesus, Craig A. Evans. We have Jesus Outside the New Testament, Robert E. Van Voorst. We have Paul Eddy, The Jesus Legend. We have Jesus Remembered by James D.G. Dunn. The Historical Jesus in Context by Amy Jill Levine, something. And also, for those wondering, that is also the first 21st century academic published mythicist book. It was published before Carriers by the same press. So yeah. Voila. We have quite a few, actually. But anyways, we're going to call it here for the night. We're going to probably do a part 2 here, hopefully, soon. So I'm Chris, and Brian is somewhere on Earth. Do you guys want to sign off too? And plug your channels or anything?
Yeah, Brack channels the Esoteric Jellyfish, and that's it.
History?
Yep.
You want to plug anything?
Did I unplug anything?
Do you want to plug anything, like your channel? Shameless promotion?
Yeah. My channel is mostly mirrors until I reach 500 subscribers. Then I'll get to doing my own thing. But yeah.
Yeah, HistoryNet. Just go look at it. So that's it for tonight. So see you all probably next week, unless we do a hangout sometime in the else. So long.
Night.